Chapter 573. He was beaten to such a sorry state, but his attitude was still so arrogant. Everyone had their eyes open today. They originally thought that the punch was very satisfying, but now they felt that it wasn't satisfying enough. They all waved their fists towards the sky and cheered for Gu Fei. Beat him to death, beat him to death. The crowd shouted rhythmically. Gu Fei shook his head helplessly and said, "It would be great if we could really beat him to death. It's a pity that even if we kill him, he will revive. He's still so annoying when we see him again. This part of online games isn't good." Everyone's heart palpitated. They thought to themselves that an expert was indeed an expert. He couldn't even vent his anger by piking someone's level. He really wanted to kill him. It was as cruel as the rumors. Boundless Meng was also dissatisfied with the Han family young master's plan to sell her staff. However, she and Gu Fei weren't as distant as Lan Yi and the others. During the Traversing the Four Seas mission, they had seen each other frequently and had worked together many times. It wouldn't be wrong to call them friends. Boundless Meng was always as cold as winter to her enemies. However, the person in front of her wasn't an enemy. Even if he wasn't kind, his starting point was the same as everyone else. It was to get rid of Jian Nanyu. Thinking about this, Boundless Meng didn't want to dwell on these small matters anymore. She tried to persuade everyone, forget it. The staff is still here. Nothing happened. There's no need to kill each other over this. In short, Boundless Meng still saw the Han family young master as one of their own. Han family young master nodded and praised Boundless Meng. "You're much more magnanimous than them." Everyone was angry. Boundless Meng glared at him. "Next time you want to do something like this, at least tell us first, right? I have no confidence in your acting skills." Han family young master said indifferently. "Is that so? I think you just like to see everyone fly into a rage because of you, right?" Gu Fei gave him a sidelong glance. "As long as the plan works, I don't care about anything else." Han family young master said. Forget it. Let's leave it at that." Mang suspected that if his brothers continued to listen to the Han family young master's preaching, they would most likely become irritable again. At that time, he might not be able to persuade them even if he wasn't the person involved. Thus, he wanted to quickly disperse everyone. "Don't." Gu Fei suddenly interrupted. "It's not over yet." "What?" Everyone stared blankly for a moment, and then joy appeared on their faces. Could it be that Brother Expert also felt that one punch was too little and was prepared to do another 3 or 2 punches? "It's like this. You see, the original plan has failed, so we can only use the original method." Gu Fei said. "What kind of crude method?" Boundless Meng asked. "Leave the staff to me." Gu Fei beamed with joy. "Damn, you're not purposely causing trouble, are you?" The young master of the Han family was now seriously suspecting that Gu Fei had purposely messed up the situation and ruined the plot he had designed, causing the current situation to fail. Then, he would jump out and continue with his old and broken plan. Right now, Jian Nanyu and the others might still be in the auction house. Thus, we can just hand the staff to me right under their eyes. How great would that be? Gu Fei said. "Great my ass. What's the use of this kind of trick? Now that I've given it to you, you'll return it to Boundless Mang the next moment." How could they not think of this? Han family young master said. "It's precisely so that they won't think of it, so I won't return it for now." Gu Fei said. "But their line of sight will still continue to be entangled with Boundless Mang. What's the use of you holding the staff? Why don't you just directly put it in the warehouse?" Han family young master said. "After killing Boundless Mang 5, 6, 7, 8 times, they'll eventually believe that the staff isn't on her. At that time, they'll come find me." Gu Fei said. Hey. Boundless Mang was very dissatisfied. Why was he suddenly going to be killed 5, 6, 7, 8 times? Did you see that? Han family young master spread out his hands towards Boundless Mang. "I only wanted to sacrifice your staff. Moreover, that's not really a sacrifice. A large amount of gold coins will go back into your pocket. This guy wants to directly sacrifice your people. He's so inhumane." Why didn't anyone stand up and beat him to death? If you sell it again, it won't be worth as much as it is now. Because no one has used it before, the value of this rare equipment is rather vague. When it first appeared, it would cause a mad scramble for it. Now that it has appeared again so soon, the price will definitely drop drastically. Those who are overly suspicious will even suspect that there's something wrong with it. Brother Yu appeared out of nowhere and said with great experience, "I'm just saying this out of anger." The boundless Mang Mang was about to go crazy. What kind of people were in this circle? One was going to sacrifice his magic staff, the other was going to sacrifice his level 5, 6, 7, and 8, and the last one was going to seriously come up with a plan out of anger. You guys aren't teaming up to play with me, are you? Boundless Mang Mang really had this kind of suspicion. The three of them glanced at each other and shrugged. That's it. Jian Nen, you can look for whoever he wants. Anyway, the magic staff isn't in my hands right now. If it's stored in the auction house for a week, that brat will have to wait 10 days for the magic staff. It'll be at least half a month before I get the magic staff back. Let Jian Nan waste his energy. Disperse, disperse. Boundless Mang roared in annoyance. Too fucking ruthless. Everyone was shocked. The original plan was to store the magic staff in the auction house for a week and have Jian Nanyu wait for it. Everyone already felt that it was very inhumane. They didn't expect that Boundless Mang Mang would be even more vicious. He directly found someone who would temporarily leave the game after getting the magic staff. This way, Jian Nanyu would have to wait for the magic staff to come back online after waiting for half a month. The seven of them might as well be like the Calabash brothers and transform into a mountain, protecting their ideal magic staff for the rest of their lives. The victim had flipped out, and the others shrunk their necks, not daring to make a sound. Seeing the vast expanse of grass, they turned and left. Lan Yi and Sakurazuka Tsukuzi hurriedly chased after them. Don't follow me. I want to see what Jian Nanyu can do. Boundless Mang was really depressed. They had just met a robber. Wasn't it just a game where you kill me, I kill you? It was a simple matter, but now it was getting more and more complicated. A bunch of people gathered together carefully. Boundless Mang couldn't bear it any longer. That's right. Why are there so many of you gathered here? Let's disperse. Slim Waist Dance also jumped out and roared. Then she hugged Mang Mang and said, "Let's go play." Mang Mang nodded, and the two girls walked away hand in hand. Slender Dance took advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention to her and stuck her hand out from her shoulder to make a victory sign to Gu Fei. Gu Fei shook his head and sighed. He wanted to act cool in the vast wilderness, but in the end he was still used as bait. Lan Yi and Tsubasa Sakuratsuka didn't dare to chase after him, but they were worried if they didn't. They looked like they were going to die, so the more they looked at each other, the more they looked at each other. The scene was chaotic. 100 Era's Jinglin still hadn't figured out the ins and outs of the matter. He scratched his head and asked Gu Fei for advice. What's going on? Aren't we going to PK Jian Nanyu? Why are they selling staffs? Why do they have to buy their own staffs after selling them? Why are they angry if they can't buy them back? They want to use this method to lure Jian Nanyu out. Gu Fei said. Then where is Jian Nanyu? 100 Era's Jinglin's careless action of looking around seemed to be mocking this failed plan. Perhaps it's coming out soon. The young master of the Han family suddenly said, "What's your plan now?" When Brother Yu asked this question, he couldn't help but feel a chill. Look at how happy everyone is right now. Han family young master looked at Lan Yi and Tsubasa Sakuratsuka, who seemed to be about to start fighting. Gu Fei jumped out at the right time and yelled for the two groups to stop fighting. If you have the time, think of a way to protect the vast wilderness. It's not like you guys haven't seen Jian Nanyu's methods. Gu Fei said, "What do you have in mind, Brother Zue?" Sakurazuka Tsutomo quickly came over to curry favor with Gu Fei, showing that he was the one who was closer to Gu Fei. I think he and his group of brothers want to deal with Jian Nanyu. Protect the vast wilderness. Have you guys thought about this? Lonnie said, "You're right, so I'll leave the protection to you guys. Don't relax." Gu Fei said, "Pfft." Lan Yi snorted and left with his brothers. This Lan Yi is very concerned about Mang Mang. The two of them are old friends. Have they been secretly in love for a long time? Yu Zai has a strong opponent. I told you, with Yu Zai's wretched appearance, how could he have a chance with such a good girl? The brothers of eternal life in the flower bush were all talking at once, but what they were discussing was completely unrelated to the matter at hand. However, it was clear that Tsubasa Sakuratsuka was more concerned about this matter. The more he listened, the more shocked he became. He hurriedly bid farewell to Gu Fei and quickly left. Although Lan Yi and his group were walking in the opposite direction, they had the same destination. It was only a matter of time before they met. The large group had already dispersed, leaving only Gu Fei, Han family young master, Brother Yu, and Bai Shi Jingluan. Just what is the plan? Brother Yu increasingly felt that Gu Fei and Han family young master were doing things step by step. They purposely made everyone quarrel and part on bad terms. Han family young master said. Brother Yu was puzzled. It's just to let Jin Nan Yu see that our plan is a complete failure. Han family young master said. What do you mean? But his concept of failure is different from ours. Our failure is a good thing for him. Han family young master said. You mean to let Jin Nan Yu think that we made a mistake and really sold the staff? Brother Yu said. Han family young master nodded. Since we failed to make it real, we can only pass off the fake as the real thing. Then Qinli's punch was also part of your plan? Brother Yu asked. Han family young master smiled bitterly. He was hinting to Gu Fei that he could Photoshop a few people to make the dispute look intense, but he didn't expect Gu Fei to punch him. I was serious. Gu Fei actually explained to him. I really wanted to beat you up for a long time. Gu Fei said. The Han clan's young master nodded. I meant what I said. Which one? Gu Fei was puzzled. He didn't remember Han family young master saying any important lines. Fuck you. Han family young master repeated. Chapter 574. Brother Yu lowered his head and pondered for a while, but he was still confused. He looked at the Han family young master and said, Can you explain in detail, clearly, and without hiding anything? Isn't it clear enough? The Han family young master was the type who would die if he didn't look down on others, not to mention that Brother Yu had delivered himself to his doorstep. Brother Yu, on the other hand, was the type who would die if he didn't know the truth. For the sake of the truth, he had no choice but to accept it. Listen, this was originally a trap, as you all know. It wasn't complicated, but it would definitely arouse the suspicion of Jin Nan Yu and the others. If they suspected it was a trap, what should they do? Avoid it? In my opinion, beating them at their own game and finding an opportunity to achieve their goal is the smart way to do so. I think this is also what Jin Nan Yu and the others would do. However, in the process of unraveling the trap, they would accidentally discover that it was not a trap. Perhaps it was once a trap, but in the end, due to the fact that they had sold the magic staff in the boundless wilderness, there was a variable that they could take advantage of. When he came to this realization, very well, he really fell into my trap. Therefore, it's not a big deal that Qian Li's stupid actions aroused the suspicion of Jin Nan Yu and the others. The first part of this trap doesn't need to be suspected at all. It's a pity that his idiocy still allowed Boundless Mang to buy back the staff. This way, the second part can't continue. Jin Nan Yu knows everything and can beat him at his own game, but we can't do anything about it. Which side are you fucking on? The Han family's young master looked down on Gu Fei as he spoke. However, Gu Fei wasn't listening to him at all. He was waving his hands and gesturing something with Bai Shijing. The Han family young master glanced at them, and his expression became more and more unsightly. Gu Fei seemed to be communicating with Bai Shijing about the punch he just threw at him. Bai Shijing had an eager expression on his face. Let them suspect first, then dispel their suspicions. So that's how it is. Brother Yu listened attentively. And it's not like you're helpless right now. Now, you're pretending to be in a dispute to deceive them into believing that the staff has really been sold, right? That's right, but compared to selling the staff, this kind of lie is only a last resort. There are too many variables in the situation. Han family young master said. What about Sword Demon and the others? Brother, you didn't notice them at first, but now he realized that he hadn't seen them since leaving the auction house. I'll have them stay at the auction house and pay attention to Jian Nanyu's actions, Han family young master said. Just the three of them? Will there be any trouble? Brother Yu had participated in the fight against Jian Nanyu's team. His combat skills were ordinary, but he had good foresight. If their team didn't have an abnormally strong person like Gu Fei, they would only have a 50-50 chance of winning against Jian Nanyu's team. If it was just Sword Demon and the other two, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. Yutian has long-range eagle vision and Sword Demon is stealthy. What's there to worry about? Han family young master said. What about Wushang? The auction house is an absolute safe zone. Oh, then do they have any news? Brother Yu asked. Why don't you ask them directly in the mercenary channel? Han family young master was clearly annoyed after saying so much. Brother Yu's thirst for knowledge was terrifying. Han family young master immediately saw him send a message in the channel. In the auction house, Flaming Jacket and Glue stayed behind after everyone else had left. After waiting for a while, they saw Unscathed in Battle appear. Their hearts raced. Of course, they weren't afraid of Unscathed in Battle, but they were afraid of the terrifying figure in Unscathed in Battle's team. Calm down, this is an absolute safe zone. The two said to themselves. Unscathed in Battle clearly understood this, so he casually walked in their direction without putting up any defenses. The two looked at each other, then looked to their side. Next to them was the NPC who would pick up the goods. Unscathed in Battle was walking in their direction. Could he be here to pick up the goods? I'm busy. In the end, Unscathed in Battle unexpectedly walked in front of the two and spoke to them in a casual tone. The two didn't know how to reply. They were immediately at a disadvantage. Don't wait anymore. The buyer of the staff won't appear today, Unscathed in Battle said. Why? Flaming Jacket blurted out because he was impulsive. He was obviously not the shrewd type. Haha, I'm actually bluffing. Maybe he will appear. You guys better wait patiently. Unscathed in Battle said. The two gritted their teeth. They hated the fact that they were in a safe zone. Where's your boss? Unscathed in Battle looked around. Where's your boss? The two asked back. My boss is me. Don't you know? Unscathed in Battle said shamelessly. We're all warriors and we're both bosses. Help me ask him out for a duel, Unscathed in Battle said shamelessly. I don't have time for that, Flaming Jacket said. That's right. Unscathed in Battle nodded. You guys better wait here for the time being. Ha. Unscathed in Battle said. He swung his great sword and put it on his shoulder. He twisted his butt and went to look at the auction panel. He ignored the two. Flaming Jacket and Glue looked like they were suffering from internal injuries. Glue was still calm. He quickly told Jianan about Unscathed in Battle's sudden appearance and irritating conversation. Meanwhile, Jianan had just received news from Blackwater who tailed them. The group of people in the middle of the street suddenly quarreled and split up. Are you sure? Jianan paid attention to the group of people because he wanted to confirm his theory through their actions. Splitting up in the middle of the street was not part of his plan. Of course, I was too far away and couldn't hear what they were talking about. But it was definitely a quarrel and they started fighting, Blackwater said confidently. Tell me the details. At first, it seemed that the priest who was with Qianli Drunk had a quarrel with the people in the middle of the street. But Qianli Drunk sided with the people in the middle of the street and knocked the guy down with one punch. They quarreled for a while, and then Mang Mang left angrily. Slim Waist Dance left with her. The rest of them quarreled for a while, and then they split into two groups and went their own ways. Only 1,000 Miles Drunk and the others were left. They seemed to be arguing about something, Blackwater reported. What's going on? Jianan was a little confused. There's another bad news, Blackwater said. What? There's a fighter with Drunk Qianli Drunk and the others. I think he's the 100 years of experience, Blackwater said. Damn it. Jianan couldn't help cursing. It was hard enough to deal with Qianli Drunk, and now there was the 100 years of experience. What should we do now? Blackwater asked. Who are you targeting now? Jianan asked. Drunk Qianli Drunk. Continue. Be careful. Understood. After receiving the information from both sides, Jiannan began to think about the situation with his eyebrows knitted. From the information obtained from Yi Xiaowu, he knew that this was indeed a trap set by drunk Qianli Drunk to lure Jiannan and the others out. However, he didn't find any signs of an ambush when he was wandering around the auction house. Dao Xiangmu and the others who were sent out did not find any ambush at the resurrection points either. This didn't make sense. However, the buyer of the staff, missing Man Chi, gave them an explanation. Perhaps the other party was preparing to take the staff to lure them after everything was set up. However, Jian Nanyu couldn't understand why 8,000 Miles Drunk had suddenly put on such an eye-catching show during the auction, as well as why Zhan Wushang had mocked the flaming cloak and glue. They even quarreled. Was it because of Qianli Drunk's exposed actions? Then why did he expose himself? Jian Nan and the others didn't back down just because they suspected it was a trap. Just like what the Han family young master said, it was a good thing to be able to detect a trap. They had a lot of options to choose from. Jian Nan made many arrangements. He stared at the auction house, paid attention to the actions of Qianli Drunk and the others, and paid attention to the locations where they needed to set up ambushes. All of this was to further understand the trap and find opportunities to continue his work. He thought he had a clear understanding of the other party's arrangements. However, Qianli Drunk's strange actions were a big mystery. Following the appearance of Unscathed in battle, Jiannan couldn't think of a reasonable explanation. Unscathed in battle seems to be wasting time with us. At that moment, Glue suddenly sent a message. Why? This guy isn't leaving. He's purposely wandering around under our noses. I don't know what he's up to. Glue was feeling a little guilty. Is he watching you? Jiannan asked. Probably. But he's so arrogant. It's annoying. Glue said. Wait. Jiannanyu's expression suddenly changed. Is he targeting you guys or the NPC who is shipping the goods over there? What do you mean? What I mean is that he's watching you guys is the same as watching the NPC. Jiannan said. Why is he watching the NPC? Glue didn't understand. Of course it's to find out who the staff was sold to. Jiannan said. Isn't the staff a show that they bought themselves? Glue didn't understand. It was supposed to be a show, but what if they messed it up? Jiannan said. What did you find out? Glue hurriedly asked. First of all, Qianli Drunk appeared at such a sensitive time. There must be a reason why he appeared. His actions couldn't have been meaningless. What kind of impact did he have on the fake sale incident? A lot of people surrounded him. Glue said. That's right. Think about it again. You told me about it as a joke. This has never happened in the auction house. Jiannan said. Glue immediately understood. A lot of people couldn't get to the auction stage. You're saying that they also encountered this problem. That's why Qianli Drunk jumped out to distract a lot of people so that they could get to the auction stage? Yes. Judging from the fact that the fake sale ended before the auction ended, their people should have successfully seized the stage. However, seizing the stage doesn't mean that they succeeded in snatching it, Jian Nanyu said. Their people got into an argument after leaving the auction house. Isn't it most likely because the fake sale of the staff became real? Jian Nan continued. Yes. This Unscathed in battle's appearance isn't meaningless. For boundless Mang Mang, selling her staff for money wasn't something that she could accept, but it had nothing to do with us. That was why it was unlikely that her group would waste any more time and effort to tangle with us. She was still angry that her staff had been sold, and she knew that with us around, we would make the owner's staff drop again. Perhaps she would even feel relieved. Only Qianli Drunk and his people like to go against us. That's why Unscathed in battle appeared and said those nonsensical things to you. Jiannan said. Then what's the point of his nonsense? Glue didn't understand. Qianli Drunk's exposure will make us suspicious. They know this too. With the fact that the fake sale of the staff has become real, their trap has already failed. However, they are also very vague about how much we know about the situation. That's why Zhan Wushang says that the buyer will come and then says that he won't. He's actually testing our reaction to see how much we know, Jian Nanyu said. Is that so? Glue didn't dare imagine that idiot would be so shrewd. He actually used words to test their intentions. Wasn't that just a few shameless taunts? Would the #1 warrior in the game be that simple? Jianan said solemnly. He would never underestimate his opponent. Glue wiped his sweat. He was just thinking about whether his and Flaming Cloak's reactions had sent back some sort of message to his opponent. Then why hasn't he left? Glue asked. I said it before. Because the fake sale of the staff became real, they need to understand where the staff is sold. Jianan said. They want the staff back too? Glue was shocked. That's hard to say, but at the very least, wherever the staff appears, will be there. This is the same as their original intention. They just want to lure us out. Jianan said. How tiring. Why are they so fixated on us? It's not like they've dropped any equipment. Glue said. They have? They didn't succeed. Jianan reminded him. As expected of Jianan, he was really confident. Glue thought. He felt that Qianli probably didn't even know that they wanted to drop his equipment. They were so insignificant that they didn't even have time to reveal their intentions before they were chased all over the place. Then what should we do now? Glue asked. We need to control the buyer of the staff. So even though their people will be there, we need to keep an eye on them. But we need to think about it carefully. If we act rashly, we'll fall into their trap. Jianan said. Those guys, don't tell me they want to drop the staff along with us. Glue said. We can't rule out this possibility. The staff was unexpectedly sold, and Boundless Mang seems to be very angry. Looking at the situation, this idea was most likely thought up by them. Using this method to get the staff back to Boundless Mang isn't impossible. Jianan said. That's really troublesome. With them keeping an eye on the target, how are we going to act? Glue was worried. Don't worry, there will be a chance. Chapter 575. In the Child Elite Group's mercenary channel, Han Family Young Master was also receiving messages from the 3 people who were scattered outside. I saw Jiananyu, but I lost him in a flash. He was very careful and professional. Yutian Shenming said. Yes, I understand. Han Family Young Master said. What do you mean? Yutian Shenming was furious. He really disappeared after turning around a street. Did you recognize which street it was? Han Family Young Master asked. In the end, it was Sword Demon who replied. It's not because Yutian has a bad sense of direction. Jiananyu is indeed difficult to deal with. I've met him before, but I lost him after a while. He was very careful and often took some detours. He should have many sets of equipment on him. This was a huge difference between the parallel world and reality. In reality, changing clothes on the street was a very eye-catching thing. It was very common in the game. Many people had 2 or 3 sets of equipment on hand. Not everyone had good-looking and exquisite equipment. Most players didn't care about their appearance in battle, but they would try their best to dress well when they were on the road or drinking. This was especially true for Imperial Divine Ming and Zhan Wushang, who loved to pick up girls. Once upon a time, Yutian Shenming actually had a set of clothes with good attributes. However, because the color didn't match, it made him look like a green onion. In the end, he sold it with tears in his eyes. If male players were like this, there was no need to mention female players. The warehouse was a wardrobe. It didn't matter if the equipment was useful or not, as long as it looked good, it would be kept. In such a realistic game environment, it was too hard for the girls to wear the same clothes for 2 weeks in a row. Jiananyu was like a girl who loved to look good. He didn't use the warehouse as a wardrobe. He carried a few sets of clothes with him, from head to toe. It was all because of the dangerous profession of robbing. The team of 7 split up. He was responsible for paying attention to the movements around the auction house, which was undoubtedly the most dangerous place. Jiananyu had made thorough preparations. He had prepared 7 sets of equipment that could be changed at any time, covering the 7 major classes. Even though he wasn't sure if he was being watched, he changed his clothes every now and then. Jiananyu had perfected the saying, "It is better to be safe than sorry." Yutian Shenming's evaluation wasn't wrong. Yutian Shenming was careful and professional. While he was on guard, amateurs like Sword Demon and Yutian Shenming revealed the gap between them and pro players. Wushang, what about your side? Han family young master asked, unscathed in battle. Those two grandsons are still here. Unscathed in battle had been interacting with Lan Yi's people a lot lately. Hearing them call each other grandson, grandson, he was also infatuated with these two words. How did they react to you? Han family young master asked. They spat at me. If they have the guts, then don't come out. If they do, I'll kill them. Unscathed in battle pretended to be a god. Did you guys confirm whether or not there were any of them outside? Han family young master asked. Yes, I did. I didn't see any of them. Sword demon replied. But Jianan Yu was sneaking around here. Yutian Shenming added. Yes, the one I met was the same, the sword ghost said. After all, they had the upper hand in terms of strength. They weren't like Jianan Yu and the others who had to hide and look around openly. Oh, Han family young master was deep in thought. Brother Yu naturally wouldn't let him go. He immediately asked, how is it? This group of fellows seems to be a cut above others in terms of escaping and tracking. If my guess is correct, there might even be people watching us from the shadows. The Han family's young master said. Brother Yu immediately looked back. Gu Fei and Bai Shi Jingluan had been exchanging their martial arts experiences along the way. They didn't care about what was happening in front of them. When they heard Han family young master suddenly say that there were people watching them, the two of them looked back at the same time. Even if there were people watching us, they wouldn't be too close. They wouldn't be able to hear us. Gu Fei said. How many meters can you sense? Bai Shi Jingluan asked. Around 10 meters. Gu Fei said. So strong. I can only sense about 5 to 7 meters. Bai Shi Jingluan said enviously. This varies from person to person. You see, the two of them went back to discussing their professional knowledge. Han family young master and brother Yu couldn't understand at all. Both parties were minding their own business. The auction hall was the only place where they intersected with each other. Unscathed in battle didn't wander around blindly. He stood at the entrance of the auction hall with his great sword. Half of him was outside the door, and the other half was inside the door. He looked at the two with an arrogant expression. His intention to threaten them was obvious. However, the two of them only glanced at him from time to time. They paid more attention to the players who went to pick up their goods from the NPC. Zhan Wushang was asking for a snub. Compared to when he had first arrived, the two of them were clearly much calmer now. There was even a hint of mockery in their eyes as they looked at Zhan Wushang. How long do I have to stay here? What's the point of doing this? Unscathed in battle couldn't take it anymore. He was called to the auction house by Han family young master. When he asked what he needed to do, Han family young master told him to do whatever he wanted. Thus, he displayed his shamelessness. He came here to show off, but now he was bored. He was being looked down upon, but he couldn't do anything. There was no skill in arguing. Unscathed in battle didn't want to do this anymore. He protested to Han family young master. Can't you be a little more patient? Look at how professional they are. Han family young master said. There's two of them. Find me a beauty to accompany me. I'll let you know what it means to be professional. Unscathed in battle replied. Aren't there any girls in the auction house? Do whatever you want. Han family young master said. These words reminded Zhan Wushang of something. From then on, his gaze no longer lingered on those two fellows. He changed into a set of equipment that he felt was extremely elegant, and he started to walk around the auction house. When he saw a prey that was pleasing to the eye, he would go up and strike up a conversation without any care. Very quickly, he was rolled his eyes 3 times, but he still enjoyed it. It was as if he had suddenly found the meaning of life. Flame Jacket and Glue didn't seem to care about Unscathed in battle, but they were actually paying attention to him. After a while of being bored, he suddenly turned into a little bee that was picking flowers. He was so busy that he didn't even have the time to pay attention to the two of them. The two of them felt that the situation was very serious, so they immediately reported it to South Sword. Humph, they're still pretending, South Sword said. They're just pretending to be relaxed so that we can't figure out their trump card. Don't worry, I've already sorted out my thoughts. This was originally a trap to lure us out. However, when we were trying to take back the staff, we neglected the fact that there were too many people at the auction and there were too few auction tables. Although Qianli tried to cause chaos when he was drunk, it was obvious that he failed at the last moment. So, they got into an argument. Maybe it was because this idea came from Qianli and his gang. Maybe it was because they wanted to apologize or something, so they tried to take back the staff. However, this group of people doesn't want us to have an easy time either. They want to take advantage of our mistake and beat us at our own game. Zhan Wushang was obviously monitoring the staff's whereabouts, but he purposely said all sorts of nonsense. In fact, we don't need to pay attention to him. As long as he's still at the auction house, my deduction won't be wrong. Otherwise, why would he appear here at this time? Then what should we do? The two of them asked. As I said before, your mission today is to find out who has the staff. The more you know, the better. We won't do anything today. Won't they be the first to get it? First to get it? Let them go. Do you think it'll drop just because you want it to? We have to use all kinds of tricks to succeed in every mission. They only wanted to chase and kill the target. These fellows had thought this job was too simple. Let them go first, then we'll show them what it means to be a professional, South Sword said. The two of them calmed down and continued to pay attention to what they needed to pay attention to. They didn't pay much attention to Unscathed in Battle anymore. At this time, Unscathed in Battle was wholeheartedly harassing the girls in the auction house. He didn't pay attention to the two of them anymore. Anyway, Han Family Young Master told him to just stay in the auction house and pay attention. He didn't have any strict orders to carry out at all. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours had passed. Glue and Flaming Cloak were professionals. They could bear the loneliness and treated this as their job. At this time, the two of them looked at Zhan Wushang again. This guy actually harassed the girl like a madman for 2 whole hours. What kind of shameless spirit did he have? However, the two of them had actually overestimated Zhan Wushang. The lady had been flirting with him for 2 hours, but none of them had succeeded. Zhan Wushang was also very discouraged at this moment. He was currently sending a message to young Master Han to ask if this matter was over. Are those two guys still there? Yes. Good. Looks like they've finally taken the bait. Han Family Young Master let out a long sigh. Bait. Our plan should have been seen through by them. If that was the case, they wouldn't have wasted any more time in the auction house. They didn't care who came to collect the goods or when. They would return it to Mang Mang in the end. So it's right to find Mang Mang 7 days later. But now they're willing to waste more than 2 hours there. Looks like they've finally been tricked by us. They think the staff is no longer in our hands. That's why they're persistently waiting for a buyer. Han Family Young Master said. Is that so? Unscathed in Battle didn't understand what Han Family Young Master was saying. Wu Shang contributed a lot this time. Give him 50 points, Sword Demon. Han Family Young Master said. Okay. Sword Demon replied. Of course. You guys didn't see it. When I stood in the auction house, those 2 grandsons were scared, like grandsons. Unscathed in Battle immediately started bragging. Then what's next? Brother, you asked. Next? Get someone to go get the staff. Since they've already taken the bait, then the situation will be easier to control. Han Family Young Master said. That's so beneficial. If only we had done this earlier. Brother, you sighed. Compared to actually selling the staff, there are too many variables. We're just lucky that we didn't run into them. Han Family Young Master was still stubborn. Boundless Mang, who was touring White Stone City with Slender Waist Dance, was also shocked when she received the news. What? We're going to get the staff now? That's right. Jian Nanyu and the others have already fallen into my trap. If we get the staff now, we'll be able to trigger their actions. Han Family Young Master told her. What trap? Boundless Mang was a bit confused. The young master of the Han family gave a rough explanation. Boundless Mang was inwardly shocked. As expected of the team that had once toppled their dust guild. In a situation where their plan was almost ruined, they seized the opportunity to set up another trap. Boundless Mang felt that the destruction of their guild was not unjust. But the resurrection point isn't set up yet. Boundless Mang didn't lose her ruthless temperament. Killing people once wasn't enough. Don't set it up in advance. I suspect this guy already guessed this. Paying attention to the movements around the resurrection point is part of his plan. Han family young master said. Then what do we do? Just kill them once? Boundless Mang was unwilling. Although Jian Nanyu didn't kill her staff and didn't cause any damage to her, she had already determined him as an enemy. What I mean is, don't go and arrange the arrangements in advance. This might be seen by their eyes. But when we start to make our move, we don't need to care if they know or not. We'll make the arrangements then. There are 7 of them. 2 priests and no grandmaster of combat. You can arrange the resurrection point according to the manpower. Han family young master said. Okay, I understand. Boundless Mang felt that Han family young master's arrangements were very thorough. But as soon as she told Lan Yi, she immediately became very unhappy. You still want to believe that, kid? The plan isn't bad. When Boundless Mang said this, Lan Yi was also very surprised. He even made a bold guess. Could it be that the fellow said those words on purpose at that time, to provoke a dispute and put on a show for Jian Nanyu and the others? Boundless Mang fell into silence. This was indeed the intention of Han family young master when he said those words. But he didn't deny that he was really trying to sell Boundless Mang's staff. Although Boundless Mang didn't mind it as much as Lan Yi and the others, he definitely didn't think that Han family young master was a noble person. But Lan Yi and the others were willing to understand it that way. Boundless Mang felt that it wasn't a bad thing. At least their cooperation would be smoother. He immediately replied, Probably. Damn, then what are we still talking about? Hurry up and move. Lan Yi immediately went to call his brothers. Boundless Mang then told Sakurazuka Tsukuzi that they needed to deal with 6 resurrection points, and the more the merrier. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and the others had a super idol like Gu Fei there. Their worries were negligible. Once they heard that they were busy, they didn't waste even a minute. Finally, they personally informed the priest who bought the staff and told him to go and collect the staff now. But isn't it a week from now? The kid heard Lan Yi calling everyone to gather and muttered to himself. There's a change of plans. It's more advantageous to get the staff now. Hurry up and go. Boundless Mang said. I'm outside the city, it's quite far. No problem, I'll wait for you. It's getting late, I have to go down now. Play a little longer. Without you, we can't do anything with this plan. Sister Boundless Mang. Actually, I didn't get the staff. Chapter 576. What did you say? Boundless Mang felt dizzy when he saw the message, and he even stuttered when replying. I didn't buy the staff. Everything was difficult at the beginning. After the other party started, he sent the message quickly and didn't try to hide anymore. What's going on? Boundless Mang asked. I was optimistic about the price, but after I bid, the system said that the item didn't exist. I think I was a bit late. The priest who rushed to buy said, Why didn't you say so earlier? I think there's still a week's time. The person replied. To be able to confidently entrust this task to him, the vast Mang Mang was also very familiar with this person. As soon as he heard these words, he understood what he was planning. It was like the leader had entrusted you with a task, but you didn't complete it. Fortunately, the leader would only check on your work in a week, so you might as well say that you had completed the task and think of a way to solve it in a week. This kind of thing happened everywhere in life. Boundless Mang didn't think that he would get involved in a game. Why do you have to do this? Boundless Mang didn't know what to say. The other party had this kind of thought because he valued the staff very much. Where you now? Boundless Mang asked. Auction house. Boundless Mang immediately understood. This guy also wanted to wait for a buyer, and then think of a way to buy it at a high price. And this transaction was naturally a very special situation. The value of the staff itself was already completely negligible. Spending money was to bear this responsibility. Boundless Mang reckoned that he would directly bring the other party to the exchange and fiercely become a RMB warrior. No need to trouble yourself. Just sell it. At this time, Boundless Mang really couldn't say any words of blame. After saying this, he turned around and sent a message to Han family young master, "As you wish." "Is it arranged?" Han family young master asked. "No, the staff was really sold." Boundless Mang said. "What?" Han family young master was startled. "The staff, as you wish. It was really sold." Boundless Mang sighed as he sent a message. He didn't know what to say about this matter. "Fuck." Upon receiving the news, the Han family young master blurted out, scaring Brother Yu. "What's wrong?" Brother Yu quickly asked. "Look, the variable is coming." The Han family young master was annoyed. "What happened?" "The staff was really sold. The kid who bought it lied." Han family young master said. "How could this be?" said Brother Yu. "He probably thinks he's smart and wants to buy it back with his own money. That's why he wants to hide it from us," said the Han family young master. Brother Yu scratched his head and thought for a moment before saying, "But this doesn't seem to affect us much. It's equivalent to going back to your original idea of making a fake show into reality. Then can't we just do it that way?" "It's not that simple." Han family young master said, "Let me make an example. There are two plans, A and B. Among them, A is a smokescreen for the enemy to see, to make them think that we are A, but in fact, we are carrying out B. This is the key to the whole plan. But now that A has been successfully released as a smokescreen, we can't carry out B. You mean we should treat this smokescreen A as the real plan? Can't we? Come on, boss. This plan has already been clearly conveyed to Jian Nanyu and the others. He must have thought of a targeted strategy. If we go back and carry out a now, it's fucking walking into a trap." Han family young master said. "Now that you mention it, it does seem to be the case." Brother Yu nodded. Although the Han family young master's example of AB didn't relate to the current situation, it made the logic very clear. Moreover, Brother Yu also guessed that Han family young master's original plan could actually be said to be this kind of real and fake exchange. However, originally, A was the fake sale of the staff, while B was the real sale of the staff. Later, because the real sale failed, Han family young master instantly changed the real sale of the staff into smokescreen A, and the fake sale became the truth. "Then what do we do now?" Brother Yu asked. "If the real sale is the truth, then this buyer is really strange. Such a high-quality equipment, isn't he in a hurry to get his hands on it?" Han family young master said. "You suspect that it's a trap?" With Brother Yu's suspicious spirit, he was actually already suspecting that this person said he didn't buy the staff because he wanted to embezzle it. Since this guy lied once, of course I don't mind suspecting him a bit more. Han family young master said. However, to pass this kind of thing to him, he should be a very trustworthy person. Brother Yu said, It's not like she doesn't have a history of misjudging people." Han family young master said. Brother Yu of course knew that Han family young master was referring to Silver Moon. Such a big piece of trash, the power of misjudging people in the vast expanse was really quite big. Silver Moon. Han family young master suddenly said this name and frowned. "What did you think of?" Brother Yu hurriedly said. "There are a lot of ideas." Han family young master said. "Let's hear it." Brother Yu said. Version 1. This guy colluded with Jianan Yu and the others. In reality, the whole thing went according to their expectations. With this kind of method, the vast expanse of magic staffs dropped. If that's really the case, then I have to look at them in a new light. They'll be a group of robbers with a future. However, it's a pity that Jianan Yu and his two lackeys are still eagerly waiting at the auction house. I reckon they're still stuck at the slash and burn level of crime. They won't be able to think of such an intelligent method to drop equipment. It's such a waste of your talent that you don't become a robber. Brother Yu said from the bottom of his heart. Version 2, Silver Moon. Since they're both from the former Dust Guild, then this person is obviously old friends with Silver Moon. Therefore, it's possible that Silver Moon is pulling the strings behind the scenes. He first hired Jianan Yu and the others to drop equipment and then used this method to easily get the staff after creating this kind of crisis. Even if he can't get the staff, he can still swindle a huge sum of money. What's even more amazing is that Jianan Yu and the others might fail their mission because of this. It seems like they'll lose money if they fail their mission, right? TSK, with the staff, they'll lose money, killing two birds with one stone. However, isn't it too unreasonable for such a wonderful method to fall into the hands of that trash, Silvermoon? It's a waste of your talent if you don't go and cheat others. Brother, you said from the bottom of his heart again. As for version 3, it's a sudden idea to take the staff for himself, so he made up this lie. This is probably the most a normal person can do. Han family young master said. Is it true or not? What's the attitude of the vast expanse? Brother, you asked. I think she's already chosen to believe it. Han family young master said. That's true. If she didn't believe it enough, then she wouldn't have entrusted it to this person in the first place. Brother, you said. Could it be that this woman was born to be a tragedy? Is she going to be betrayed by someone she trusts again? Let's go to the auction house. Han family young master said. Auction house? Brother, you was startled. That guy is at the auction house. Han family young master said. Could it be that he's looking for an opportunity to steal the staff? Brother, you said. The vast expanse claims that he's preparing to find a buyer and buy the staff back at a high price to cover up his previous mistake. Han family young master said. Did Wu Shang find anything over there? Brother, you suddenly asked. Do they know each other? Han family young master asked. We don't recognize him either. Brother, you said. The vast expanse will pass. The auction house was quite lively at this time. At this time, many players like Gu Fei, who had a strict schedule, were about to end their day in the game. These players didn't have much time to set up their own stalls in the players' trade area. Therefore, before they went offline, they would consign their harvest to the auction house and see if there was anything else they could buy. For a time, the auction house was bustling with activity. Players bustled about in front of the various auction control tables. Meanwhile, the NPCs selling the auction houses wares welcomed a rather tiring time of the day. Sometimes, players would form a long queue in front of the NPCs. However, the system would directly deliver the goods to the NPC without any errors. Everything was proceeding very quickly. However, Glue and Flaming Jacket were suffering. The two of them guarded the NPC and stared at the hands that were retracting at lightning speed between the players and the NPC. When they saw the staff, they were excited. However, upon closer inspection, they realized that it wasn't a staff. As this was a simulation game, appearance was very important. Therefore, any item sold in the auction would have a virtual appearance for the players to see. The two of them had already memorized the appearance of their ideal staff, but it was a pity that the staff that they had been looking forward to never appeared. The two of them were working so hard, but unscathed in battle was the one who was infuriated. At this time, the flow of players in the auction house had increased. This bastard's hunting range had expanded, and he was once again active. He didn't pay much attention to the NPC. He would only occasionally glance at the NPC and Glue, and when he saw the two of them looking at him, a fierce expression would appear on his face. Why isn't he paying attention to the NPC? Flaming Jacket was puzzled. Even if he was putting on an act, it was still a critical moment. However, Unscathed was still not paying attention to the equipment that was being handed over. Danon was right. That bastard is putting on an act to confuse us, Glue said. But at this time, Flaming Jacket said as he continued to stare at the NPC. Look over there. Glue gently touched Flaming Jacket. Flaming Jacket looked in the direction that Glue was pointing at and saw a cleric standing there in a daze. His eyes were also fixed on the interaction between the NPC and the players. Do you see that? That guy is the one in charge of paying attention to the NPC. Do you think we won't notice a new face? How naive, Glue sneered. As soon as he finished speaking, a few players walked out from the crowd and stood in front of the NPC. The two of them were stunned. They saw the Han family young master and brother Yu in the vast forest. Why did all these people suddenly appear here? Could it be that the situation had changed? The two of them were confused. Chapter 577. Danan, there's a lot of people coming. The two immediately sent a message to Jianan. What's wrong? Qianli, Drunk's cleric, Boundless Mang, and Brother Yu, we've all seen them. Glu said. Did they see you? Jianan asked. Probably soon. Glu and Flaming Cloak thought that the two would soon become the focus of attention and were mentally prepared. This time, they couldn't let unscathed in battle gain the upper hand with words. As the two of them thought of this, they secretly prepared a script in their hearts, calculating some words of ridicule and disdain, eagerly waiting for the group of people to surround them. In the end, they saw a few people in a corner whispering something. They all had serious expressions and didn't even look at the two. Forget it, sell it. It's not a loss to sell it at such a high price. Boundless Mang was trying to persuade the cleric to give up on the idea of buying back the staff at all costs. This person obviously didn't have much determination. With Boundless Mang's persuasion, his heart immediately started to move. Han family young master and brother Yu quietly observed this person's words and actions. This person didn't pay much attention at first, but after a few times, he noticed that the two people beside him were staring at him. He was very surprised. Why aren't you two saying anything? Boundless Mang was also puzzled as to why the two were so taciturn. What else can we say at this point? Forget it, take the money and leave. The Han family's young master said. When the person heard this, he immediately took out a large bag of money from his pocket and handed it to Boundless Mang. Han family young master and brother Yu looked at each other. This was one of the ways they thought of to test this person. Such a large amount of cash wasn't easy to come by. In the game, there was an exchange that directly used RMB to buy and sell equipment, but there wasn't a business that allowed people to directly exchange money for gold. There was once a person who wanted to sell gold as an item in the exchange, but the system didn't accept it. Although the government had recently announced that they were considering including gold coins in the exchange, it was not yet a reality. Therefore, no matter how rich the players were in real life, they couldn't just casually convert their money into in-game gold in a few minutes. They had to resort to reselling equipment and other similar methods, which was very troublesome. Today, everyone had pooled their money together to buy the magic staff. In order to ensure that nothing went wrong, they had gathered more than 30,000 gold coins. Even Slender Waist Dance had said that it was impossible for her to immediately take out so many gold coins. If this person had really taken the opportunity to embezzle the magic staff, a portion of the money should have already been transferred to Mang Mang's hands through the auction house. Yet, the fact that he was able to take out so many gold coins right now proved that he was innocent. Perhaps he has prepared beforehand. Brother Yu sent a private message to Han family young master. Prepare in advance? The money started to be raised at 6 o'clock tonight. No one knew how much money would be raised in advance, and the final price of the auction was even more unpredictable. Han family young master said, Then if we count the money and confirm that there's no mistake, then this person will most likely be fine. Brother Yu said, But look at this woman. She doesn't seem to have any intention of counting at all. Han family young master said. Just as he said, Mang took the money bag and casually threw it into his pocket. He even patted the cleric to comfort him. Now, let's call everyone to return the money. Mang said. Originally, this should have been done after the trade ended. However, the Han family young master had exposed the news and caused everyone to go their separate ways. Therefore, this matter had not been done yet. This is the same. Brother Yu sent a private message to Han family young master. When the money was raised, the accounts were recorded very meticulously. Now that they were returning the money one by one, they would be found out even if they were missing even a single cent. It was the same as counting the money. The Han family young master was carefully observing this guy's reaction. He found that when this guy heard that they were going to split the money now, a hint of fear flashed across his face. However, after the fear flashed by, his face was full of embarrassment. It was obvious that he had fooled everyone about buying the staff. Now that he realized that he was going to be exposed in front of everyone, it was inevitable that he would be embarrassed. Han family young master shook his head and said to Brother Yu, Look at this guy's stupidly timid appearance. I don't think he's playing any tricks. Maybe he's faking it. Brother Yu was even more suspicious. He was still observing with all his might. He's just a gutless fool. Don't waste time on him. The Han family young master had already given his conclusion. What do you mean? After failing to buy it, you want to buy it back at all costs behind everyone's back. Isn't it because you don't have the courage to face your mistakes? If you really made up your mind to use this method to make up for it, why did Boundless Mang give up on this idea with just a few words? Look at his actions. He's been trying to avoid it from the start. When the money gets exposed, I think he'll be hiding under the table. After the Han family young master sent this message to Brother Yu, he immediately said to Boundless Mang, "Then we won't be going. We still have something to do here." Boundless Mang knew that these guys wouldn't let go of Jian Nanyu. Normally, Jian Nanyu wanted his equipment, but he didn't understand why they had such a deep grudge against him. It was obvious that it wasn't all for him. He didn't ask any more questions. He took out his money pouch and counted 200 gold coins to return to the Han family young master and Brother Yu. He then grabbed the cleric and left. The cleric's face was full of unwillingness. It was just as Han family young master had said. He really didn't want to face the current situation. After sending the two away, the Han family young master turned around and waved to the other side. "Those two, come here." Glue and Fiery Jacket didn't receive the attention they had expected. They were feeling a little lonely when they saw the Han family young master turn around and wave at them. "Those two. Are you calling us?" Fiery Jacket couldn't help but reply. He was asking the other party and Glue at the same time. "Of course. Come here and run," said the Han family young master. Flaming Shirt wanted to run away, but Glue caught him and rolled her eyes at him. Huolini suddenly felt ashamed. How could he have lost his position? How embarrassing. "Come here if you have something to say." Glue was very calm and took a stand. The Han family young master and Brother Yu walked over. Glue felt that he had gained the upper hand and was quite proud of himself. Of course, he didn't dare to be careless. He carefully calculated the other party's plan and how he was going to deal with it. He also actively live-streamed the situation to Jian Nanyu. "Where's Unscathed in battle?" asked the Han family young master when he came to the front of the two. The two of them could not help but look in the same direction. Over there, Zhang Wushang had his arms crossed in front of his chest and was leaning confidently against an auction stage. He was talking to a lady who was browsing the trading panel in front of the stage. "Thanks," the Han family young master said. He and Brother Yu went to find Unscathed in battle without looking back. Glue and Fiery Jacket were petrified. That's it? That's it? Jian Nanyu was still trying to find out what the other party was doing. He came over and said something, but he was also petrified when he received Glue's live stream. Do what you're supposed to do and don't bother with them anymore. Jian Nanyu felt that he shouldn't treat the other party's actions as a pain in the ass. Judging from Glue and Fiery Jacket's emotional fluctuations, it might be a psychological attack. The safe zone could not use force, so he could only use this trick to break the two of them down. Jian Nanyu was thinking if he should find someone to switch shifts with him. Fiery Jacket had been tortured by the other party many times, so she was very weak mentally. She would lose her soul whenever she was in a daze. Zhang Wushang was just about to bring up his name and brag to the lady about how he was able to see and hear in all directions, and how he was able to fight against multiple enemies when he suddenly heard a voice behind him. "Can you stop fucking bragging?" Unscathed in battle immediately turned around and saw the Han family young master and Brother Yu. He shook his head firmly. "Who are you? I don't know you." Unscathed in battle did not want the two of them to ruin his plan to pick up the girl. He had been busy the whole night, but the girl seemed to be very interested in his bragging. When he turned around, the girl pouted and left after saying, "Bragging." She did not even know that someone was behind her, yet she was still observant and able to hear everything. "Beauty, listen to me. This is because the system restricts the killing intent of the human body in the safe zone. That's why I can't feel it. Once you step out of this door, you'll realize that what I said is true. It's true. Why don't we find a place to test it out?" "Sai, don't go, Sai." Unscathed in battle had short legs and no speed, but he still found a rogue girl. She disappeared after a while, and he even earned the disdain of the entire room. Everyone had heard his shouting just now, and they thought that he was really good at bullshitting. "What are you two doing here?" Unscathed in Battle was not in a good mood. He had been working hard for the whole night, and he was about to reap some rewards. These two fellows just had to come at this time, and they even had to follow him like ghosts. This was too much. "Comrades, the current situation is very serious." Han family young master did not care about his trivial matters at all. "What's wrong?" In the end, Unscathed in Battle quickly shifted his attention. It was obvious that he was used to failing at picking up girls, and he could get rid of the haze of failure in a few seconds. The staff was really sold, and the buyer has not shown up for a long time. Han family young master said, "What's wrong with that? Just keep an eye on them. Do you think they can run away?" Unscathed in Battle said, "Is that so? I'm relieved that you said that. Then keep an eye on them. Brother you, let's go." Han family young master said, "Wait. Zhan Wushang immediately sensed that something was amiss when he saw that young Master Han was so straightforward. He hurriedly came over to stop the two of them. Following that, he pondered carefully. "He won't appear for 7 days, right?" "You're right to be mentally prepared," Han family young master said. "How can I do that?" Unscathed in Battle immediately panicked. "Am I supposed to do nothing and just stay here for 7 days? That's why I said the situation was very serious. You were the one who said it was fine," Han family young master said. "Actually, if you give me a girl, guarding for 7 days isn't a difficult thing," Unscathed in Battle said. "Trust me, a girl who is willing to accompany you for 7 days doesn't exist in this world. You have to be down to earth, and don't always have unrealistic fantasies," Han family young master said. "Get lost." Unscathed in Battle was furious. "If you put it like that, then do we really have to guard here for 7 days like Jian and you and the others? Brother, you said." Chapter 578. The three of them couldn't help but look at Flaming Jacket and Glue. Even though they were robbers, the two of them were conscientious and loyal comrades. They were also out on a mission. Compared to Unscathed in Battle, the two of them were simply model workers. At this moment, the two of them were paying 70% of their attention to the players coming to retrieve the goods and 30% of their attention to the three of them. Their rhythm was perfectly controlled. However, when they suddenly discovered that the three of them were paying attention to them, a hint of panic flashed across their faces. "Look at them, look at you guys." Han family young master didn't let go of this opportunity to teach them. Everyone was a small team, but in terms of teamwork, the child elite group couldn't compare to Wandering Swords group of 7. Everyone put the team first and didn't care about personal gains and losses. As for the young master elite group, they were all top-notch experts. None of them backed down in a fight, but when faced with such a difficult task, they were all afraid of it. No one was willing to do it. "Let's not talk about these useless things. Let's talk about what we should do now." Unscathed in Battle said, "I don't think you guys are willing to let our people keep an eye on them, right?" Han family young master said, "You're willing?" Unscathed in Battle actually asked back. Han family young master didn't answer, but everyone's attitude was clear. The three of them weren't willing. Sword Demon and Yutian Shinming weren't willing to sacrifice a lot of time. Gu Fei didn't even have a guaranteed amount of time online. "How about we rotate?" "Brother, you started to get creative. What's our goal in keeping an eye on them?" Han family young master asked. "To kill them." "Brother, you replied. If they walk out right now, can you kill them?" Brother, you paused and was speechless. He understood Han family young master's meaning. Not only did he have to keep an eye on them, he also had to ensure that he had enough strength to kill them. Otherwise, it would be a waste of time to keep an eye on them. Once he stepped out of the door, they might just kill him to silence him. In the end, this was the worst part. Both groups had to waste time here. However, Jian Nanyu and the rest were here for the money. They were squatting here to do their job well. There was motivation and rewards. As for the child elite group, that was in the game. He had nothing better to do than to waste time with the 7 of them. Staying here for 7 days was not only boring, But these 7 days of experience and money were all losses. No matter how he looked at it, the gains did not make up for the losses. What about your original plan? If someone really buys it, what should we do in such a situation? Brother, you asked. If this had happened normally, Lon E and the others would have been very angry. With their personalities, they would have been very active in trying to get the staff back, even if they had to blow up the real buyer. But now, someone has taken over this hard job for them. It's a pity that right now, their attention will probably be focused on the face melon. Boundless Mang doesn't want to make things too difficult for him. He will definitely put on an indifferent attitude and let this matter go. Actually, who would be willing to waste a lot of time on this kind of trivial matter? They can't put aside their feelings. Once Boundless Mang made a clear statement, they would definitely go find their own mothers without hesitation. Han family young master said, Brother Yu and Unscathed in battle thought about those people's behavior. It was really like this. If this staff fell into the hands of others like this, these people would definitely use both carrot and stick to get it back. At that time, Jian Nan Yu and the rest would become their competitors to get the staff back. Both sides would definitely fight to the death. Perhaps when the time came, they wouldn't even have to do anything. Right now, it was just as Han family young master said. The face melon auctioneer had changed the target of their resentment. Boundless Mang made another statement, and this matter was over for them. Why don't we give up first? Brother Yu said after a moment of hesitation. He thought about it carefully and felt that even if they gave up, they wouldn't lose anything. It could even be said that they could save a lot of time. Originally, they didn't have any deep hatred with Jian Nan Yu and the rest. It wasn't as if the earth wouldn't rotate if they couldn't destroy them. This time, it was Gu Fei who called everyone over to help Boundless Mang. Now that the main character had left the matter, they were still here to fight to the death. It didn't make sense. That's a wise decision. The young master of the Han family nodded his head. Then let's leave too? Brother Yu said. It's been a long trip. After being tossed around for so long, it's really disgusting if we don't make them bleed. Han family young master said as he walked towards the two people. Brother Yu and Unscathed in battle followed closely behind. Where's your boss? Han family young master asked as soon as he came over. The two people ignored him. Jian Nenyu had already told them to ignore these people and just do their job. Move aside. Flaming Coat said to Han family young master. There were people coming to pick up their items, and Han family young master was blocking his view. Han family young master turned around and looked at the players who were lining up to pick up their items. He extended his hand and said, "Stop." Everyone looked at him suspiciously as they continued to line up to pick up their items. No one paid attention to him. Han family young master just wanted everyone to pay attention to him. He didn't care if they listened to him or not. When he saw everyone looking at him, he immediately waved his hand and pointed at Flaming Coat and Glue. Do you see how long these two have been waiting here? Do you know who they are? They dare to pick up their items at this time. They don't even want their items anymore, right? Everyone was stunned. Glue and Flaming Coat were even more nervous. Han family young master continued, "Don't blame me for not reminding you guys, but these two are professional robbers. They are stealing items from others, and they will be targeted as soon as they go out. Think about it." "Fuck, don't slander us." Glue rushed over and roared. "That's right. Ignore him. We are not robbers. Just pick up your items." Flaming Coat chimed in. Both sides didn't have any solid evidence, but they would rather believe it than not. Some players started to hesitate after hearing Han family young master's words. It didn't matter whether Glue and Flaming Coat spoke up or not. They knew that they had to say something more convincing. Glue reacted quickly and said to Han family young master, "Even if you're joking, you shouldn't go too far." It was useless to argue at this time. After all, no one could prove whether he was a robber or not. Glue pretended to be relaxed, making it seem that he was not a stranger to the young master of the Han family, so that the crowd would think that this was just a prank between friends. This move was quite useful. Some of the players looked relieved, and some even laughed. Then Han family young master said coldly, "Since they are not robbers, why does it matter to you whether they pick up their items or not? The two were stunned and thought that they had been tricked. Indeed, if it wasn't a real robbery and it was just a joke between friends, the two wouldn't have to explain anything to the others. If they didn't pick up their items after being tricked, they would only be treated as a joke. Who cared if they picked up their items or not? Only a real robber would explain himself to the others when his identity was exposed. That was why he would be so anxious that the players would stop picking up their items. The two fell into Han family young master's trap. The best explanation was that they didn't have to rush to pick up their items. Glue's plan of pretending to be a friend was also a good one, but it was too late. The players who were buying the items had already seen how anxious they were. For a moment, some of the people in the queue immediately withdrew from the queue. With one person taking the lead, others immediately followed blindly. Everyone discussed with each other, and those who were slow to react listened to the explanations of those who were quick to react. In an instant, half of the players in the queue had withdrawn. It wasn't that they didn't believe it, but they knew that what they wanted was just a normal item. How could it be targeted by the robbers? They must have been blind. The news of two robbers trampling on the items spread across the entire trading center. The two were instantly surrounded and reprimanded by a large number of players. Even if they were framed, they wouldn't be able to defend themselves. Moreover, the two of them were real robbers. If it wasn't for the fact that the safe zone forbade players from coming into contact with each other, they would have been trampled to death. Han family young master stood outside the circle and looked at the angry crowd. He said to Brother Yu and unscathed in battle, "Of course we can't let them have it easy, right?" Yes. The two wiped their sweat. They realized that they were lucky to be in the same party as Han family young master. At least they didn't have such a monstrous opponent. His train of thought was extremely simple. He just wanted to expose the identities of those two guys who couldn't see the light of day. It was rare that he was able to convince everyone so much that they started to attack him. Glue and Flaming Jacket endured the spittle of the crowd and quickly reported the situation to Azure Sword. I was too careless." Azure Sword pinched his thigh fiercely. He would be the laughingstock of his peers if word of this got out. As a robber, a profession that was hated by both gods and gods, he actually lived under the same roof with people who knew his background. He even had a clear conscience about spying on them. Wasn't he digging his own grave? There was no place to hide in the auction house. It was already risky enough to spy on people and trade equipment. Now that there were people who knew who they were, they actually didn't realize the danger. Fuck. Azure Sword slapped himself twice. This was his dereliction of duty as the boss. Retreat. Azure Sword instructed the two of them. They didn't need to know too much about the situation to know that they definitely couldn't spy on them anymore. They would definitely be killed if they went through the main entrance. Even if Azure Sword came to rescue them, they might not be able to withstand the anger of so many people. Moreover, there was also Qianli and his gang. Fortunately, they had prepared a way to escape. It was also an idea that Glue had thought of. The Windchaser emblem. After interacting with Yi Xiaowu, Glue knew the existence of this equipment and how to obtain it. The teleportation function was really a great escape tool. However, although Azure Sword and his gang were robbers, they usually kept a low profile and were cautious. They almost never piked with others unless they were on a mission. Although they did come into contact with wanted missions, none of them had accumulated as many as 100 times. However, now that they had a goal, after working hard for one night and one day, they finally obtained 2 pieces. Then, they handed them to Flaming Jacket and Glue. Azure Sword originally thought that there would definitely be an ambush outside the auction house. The 2 people in charge of surveillance might not have the chance to escape safely. Therefore, they wanted to use the teleportation function of the Windchaser emblem to leave directly. The 2 of them also knew that it was meaningless to continue staying. As soon as they received Azure Sword's order, they immediately slapped the emblem. A white light flashed, and the 2 of them disappeared. The teleportation was considered a function in the game and not a skill. It was not restricted in the safe zone where skills were sealed. Azure Sword and his gang had already experimented with it. Where did they go? The group of players was having a great time criticizing the two criminals when they suddenly found out that the two criminals had disappeared. They were suspicious and hesitantly dispersed. However, at this time, although the two people were no longer in the auction house, the players were still traumatized. They looked at each other and felt that they were the only ones who were not suspicious. For a time, apart from those who wanted to collect the worthless items, no one stepped forward to collect the equipment. Needless to say, brother, you knew that this effect was definitely within the expectations of the Han family young master. If this matter spread out, there might not be a long-term impact, but in the short term, the players in the trading house would definitely be cautious. Needless to say, the players who had bought the ideal staff would definitely have to collect the equipment, but they would definitely be on guard when they came to collect it. Naturally, the difficulty of Azure Sword and his gang's quest was greatly increased. Let's go! Han family young master noticed that some people were looking at him suspiciously. He hurriedly summoned Brother Yu and unscathed in battle and left. Imagination was scary. There was no guarantee that people would suspect that the Han family young master and his gang were colluding with the two people. After a flash of white light, Flaming Jacket and Glue saw that they were already at the White Stone City Wanted Quest office. The ferocious faces in front of them had disappeared. They could not help but let out a long sigh of relief, thinking that this wanted badge was really a treasure. The two of them accepted a quest each. Since they had nothing to do for the time being, they wanted to complete the quest first and keep the badge in a teleportation state. Where's yours? The two of them exchanged the target serial number and coordinates. It's not that close. Say yours first. Glue said that their wanted quests for the entire night were carried out as a team. It was too risky to complete the quest alone. The two of them opened the door of the quest office and walked out. As soon as they stepped out, they saw two people chatting by the door under the sun. It was just a casual glance, but Glue and Flaming Jacket were petrified at the same time. They wanted to run, but they could not move as if their feet were rooted to the ground. Of course, the two people who were chatting saw them at the same time. Without saying a word, one of them punched and the other kicked. The flaming coat and Glue fell to the stone steps outside the door the next second after they caught a glimpse of each other. While one person restrained them, the other person poked his head into the door to take a look. In the end, he retracted his head and looked at the two regretfully. Why are only you two here? Where are the others? Glue and Flaming Jacket wanted to cry, but no tears came out. You've learned how to use the wind-chasing badge? You've made progress. Did you learn it after seeing me use it? Why don't you use your brains? Even I know how to use it. Do you think that you can use it to escape? Gu Fei squatted in front of them and lectured them. Cut the crap. Hurry up and kill them. 100th Era strategist was impatient. He had just asked Gu Fei a question, but these two guys suddenly appeared. He was still waiting to hear the answer. Kill them. Gu Fei waved his hand and stood up. 100th Era strategist stomped the two people to death and stepped over the white light. Go on. Chapter 579. Hualini stood in the Mage Academy of Baishur City and looked up at the sky. This wasn't Shady City, where a few fallen leaves would float down when one was feeling melancholy. Here, the air was filled with white lime, a specialty of Baishur City. Hualini stared in one direction with his eyes wide open. In the blink of an eye, his eyes were blinded by the sand, and tears fell down. Some were in pain, while others were in pain. Once upon a time, Hualini was one of the top 10 mages. Although he kept a low profile due to the special nature of his profession, he still had pride in his heart. However, the sudden attack was too fast and too fierce. In Sunset City, two fire beacon cities forced a group of experts into a corner of the valley. Hualini was still feeling proud. However, right after that, the #1 sorcerer in the parallel world, Drifting's gorgeous ice shadow spell flashed past the wall of fire, and the dazzling falling clothes Red Lotus exploded, forcing Drifting to hide behind Jian Nan's shield, not daring to show his face. That was when the tragedy started. After that, Linshui City fell into its own sea of fire and played a self-immolation game. Xia Wu City burned its own Blackwater City and attracted the army of 1,000 Miles Drunk because of that little PK value. Then, in the fog of Xiaowu City, Flaming Robe, who had almost lost his will to fight, couldn't escape the pursuit of fate. He was the first to fall under the throat of 100 generations of statecraft, who came out of nowhere and died with a grudge. That day, a boss incident happened in Shoyu City. Many players who died at the time received compensation, but the brothers' names were not among them. Most people would feel disheartened when a level 41 top 10 master dropped 3 levels in such a short period of time. Huolini didn't. His level was gone, but he still had his career. After avoiding Qianli's drunken army, Huolini diligently leveled up. During this period of time, he had almost returned to level 2 and was only 1 step away from level 40. But it was all gone in the blink of an eye. At level 38, Huolini returned to the state when he was killed 3 times in a row. At this moment, Huolini stood at the entrance of the Mage Academy, not knowing where to go. "I'm hanging up." Jian Nan received this message from Glue. "What happened?" Southblade hurriedly asked. "Qianli's drunken army and 100 Realms strategist are guarding the entrance. They knew we would use the Windchaser emblem to escape." Glue said. Jian Nanyu considered himself to be resourceful and meticulous in his actions. However, when it came to schemes, Thousand Miles Drunk and his group were always 1 step ahead of him. He wasn't a match for the other party in terms of strength and intelligence, so what chance of victory did he have? "It's been a long day. Everyone, let's rest first." Jian Nanyu really didn't know what to say. From last night until now, they had not slept or rested. Their goal was to farm the Windchaser emblem. Everyone had only taken turns to rest on the table in the tavern for 2 hours. At the last moment, everyone had their own plans. They had made all the preparations for this battle to regain their confidence. However, the result was still a crushing defeat. Jian Nanyu wanted to say, "The battle has just begun. Everyone, don't give up." However, he couldn't write this message down. This was because even he didn't believe these words. Southblade's confidence was slowly slipping away. The members of Southblade's party, who were hiding in various corners, walked to the revival point and prepared to go offline. Dao Xiangmu coincidentally arrived at the Mage Academy and saw Flaming Robe, who couldn't even open his eyes in the wind. Dao Xiangmu didn't know what to say, so he could only pat him and go offline with a sigh. Southblade has gone offline. Although they were enemies, Brother Yu still had Southblade as a friend, so he immediately spread the news. "It can't be." Gu Fei was very disappointed. He was still waiting at the entrance of the wanted mission office, waiting to catch a big fish. Southblade was a ruthless character. He could even plot against Gu Fei at times. The first time Gu Fei sent him to prison, he borrowed the strength of the NPC soldiers. The second time, he had nothing to do with it. The third time was because of 100 Realms strategist. He hadn't been able to kill Southblade yet, so he was waiting for him. Of course, 100 Realms strategist was no exception. He honestly didn't think that he would get any rewards for killing the 2 people. After all, Southblade was the one who killed him. Now that Southblade had gone offline, there was no more business to be had. "Let's go." Seeing that there was no more fighting, the 2 warriors left for the safe zone. Only the Han family young master and the others were left to conclude the battle. Sword Ghost and Imperial Divine Ming were also quite depressed. Losing Jianan Yu once was their contribution for the day, and they had no idea what happened after that. They were just minor characters. The news from Misty Mang was that everyone was happy. Just as the young master of the Han family had expected, after Boundless Mang made it clear that he no longer cared about the magic staff, the others naturally did not say anything more. The priest who lied about buying the magic staff was inevitably scolded by Lan Yi, but in the end, the matter passed just like that. Everyone drank a few cups of wine and continued to enjoy themselves. In reality, other than Boundless Mang who had really lost the magic staff, how long could the others be sad for? Lan Yi and the others organized to level up, but Misty Mang used the excuse that he was tired and didn't want to go. Seeing that Lan Yi was rejected, Tsubasa Sakuratsuka was the happiest. After everyone left, he hopped over to Misty Mang and said, "Misty Mang, let's go do our quest." Tsubasa Sakuratsuka thought that the haze was over and that his happy life was about to begin again. I'm tired, I want to sit here for a while. You guys go ahead. Misty Mang said. Then I'll accompany you. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka said. There's no need for that, right? I'll be fine with she accompanying me. Misty Mang said. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka wanted to say something, but Slender Waist Dance chopped off a corner of the table. She pulled out her purse to pay for the table and bared her teeth at Tsubasa Sakuratsuka. Don't bother me. Go play by yourself. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka shrunk his neck. In his eyes, Slender Waist Dance was scarier than Gu Fei. This was because people who were slightly familiar with Gu Fei knew that he wouldn't be cruel to his friends. But this Slender Waist Dance was different. In her eyes, she probably didn't see Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and the others as close friends. Disobedient? The table was the end result. Didn't they already demonstrate it? Then you guys be careful. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka expressed his concern and hurriedly left with his group of brothers. She had a slender waist, a beautiful face, and a lot of money. Originally, she was the best quality girl that the brothers of the Eternal Life Flower Cluster could only dream of. But adding on the fact that she was ruthless, everyone felt that their lives were more important. When it came to picking up girls, the most important thing was to have fun, not to suffer. Apart from Brother Zue, no one can handle this kind of girl. Fireball boasted, as if Gu Fei being able to handle her meant that he was able to handle her. He led his group out of the tavern like a boss. Sigh. Seeing that everyone had left, Misty Mang finally dropped her disguise and revealed a worried expression. She fiddled with the purse in her hand, feeling quite upset. This purse was exchanged for selling the ideal magic staff. After deducting the processing fees from the system, there was still 5,623 gold, 67 silver, and 14 copper left. Being able to sell it for this price couldn't be said to be a loss. Old experts like Brother Yu only gave the ideal magic staff 2,000 to 3,000 gold based on the stats of normal equipment. Being able to break through such a high price was obviously because of its uniqueness and the craze to buy it. Buying this magic staff directly was actually more expensive than spending money to find someone to drop it. However, Misty Mang couldn't be happy because of this. Things that were lost were often the most memorable, especially things that were lost even though they didn't want to lose. No amount of money could make up for the difference in her heart. In order to not let everyone have a grudge, Misty Mang forced a smile for a long time. She was really tired of pretending. What are you doing? You're not going to cry, are you? Only girls understood the thoughts of girls. Slender Waist Dance knew that she still couldn't bear to part with the magic staff. If it was Slender Waist Dance's personality, she would have already slaughtered people who didn't know how to do things. However, Misty Mang was indeed someone who used to be a leader. Her way of doing things was completely different from her. At this moment, Slender Waist Dance moved to sit opposite her and stared at her. You're joking. Misty Mang squeezed out a smile. What's there to cry about? Now that we have money, let's go take a stroll on the streets. Loving to go shopping was a woman's nature. There were often women who did this to vent their emotions. Misty Mang also wanted to do this. Don't. Slender Waist Dance raised her hand to dissuade her. We can't just let it go like this. We have to get the magic staff back. I still want to take revenge. We don't even know where the magic staff is. How can we get it back? Misty Mang smiled bitterly. Aren't Jianan and the others going to explode? When they do, we'll snatch it from their hands. Slender Waist Dance said. Misty Mang looked deeply at Slender Waist Dance. She and Slender Waist Dance couldn't be said to be very familiar with each other. It was just that among a bunch of men, they were the only two girls. Of course, they were closer. At this moment, Slender Waist Dance said these words so naturally. Her train of thought was really too simple. I'm afraid this matter isn't that simple, right? Qianli and the others have been busy with this matter. In the end, they didn't have any results. I heard that in the end, they only killed Jianan and the other two small fries. Misty Mang said. When Glue and Flaming Cloak heard this, tears would definitely flow down their cheeks. Back then, they were also one of the top 10. Now, when people mention them behind their backs, They didn't even have a name. It was fine if they were small fries, but they were even called small fries. When it comes to fighting and killing, it's not a problem to rely on them. But when it comes to stealing equipment, frankly speaking, it's better to rely on Jiannan than them. Slender Waist Dance said. Misty Mang felt that it made sense. Every profession had its own specialization. Killing and robbing were actually two different things, especially robbing in the game. Killing was just a violent job, but robbing was a meticulous job that required patience. Thinking about how Qianli would play the game for 3 hours a day when he was drunk, no matter how strong he was, he wouldn't be able to do this kind of meticulous job. Then what exactly do you have in mind? Misty Mang was obviously happy to be able to get the magic staff back. However, after listening for a long time, she still didn't understand what Slender Waist Dance's plan was all about. Didn't Jiannan and the others explode the magic staff because someone asked them to? Right now, no matter who has the magic staff, they still have to explode it. How much will they pay? We'll pay double, and the magic staff that drops will belong to us. After the trade, we'll take the goods, and then we'll kill them. How great would that be? Slender Waist Dance said proudly. Misty Mang was stunned. The closer she got, the more she couldn't see her clearly. Who was this person in front of her? The #1 RMB warrior in the online gaming world. If she didn't use money at a critical moment, would she be worthy of her title? This plan was indeed the strength of a RMB warrior. If I can't get you, I'll use money to buy you. Will this work? Misty Mang hesitated. It was still the same thing. Every profession had its own specialization. When it came to using money to pave the way, Misty Mang felt that she definitely didn't have as much experience as Slender Waist Dance. No problem. They're taking such a big risk to do this, isn't it for money? The same thing for a bit more money. What reason do they have to refuse? Slender Waist Dance was full of confidence. Give it a try? Misty Mang was a bit tempted. In order to get the magic staff back, she was willing to sacrifice some money. The price of the auction this time was insane, and this amount of money was probably enough to double it. If it wasn't enough, she would probably add a bit more. In the end, the two girls immediately asked the Han family young master and found out that Jiannan Yu had already gone offline. After a bad start, Slender Waist Dance gritted her teeth and cut another table. Forget it, even if we know he's online, we won't be able to find him. Let's send him a letter. Misty Mang said. Slender Waist Dance nodded her head. They had done so much to lure out this group of people. It was obvious that it wasn't that easy to find them. Writing a letter was a safe way to contact them. She wrote a letter and sent it. Misty Mang thought about how there wasn't anyone watching the auction house. Maybe the buyer would come to get the magic staff. Maybe she could buy it back? Thinking about it, she dragged Slender Waist Dance to the auction house. In her heart, she thought that this was really ridiculous. She had just sold the magic staff for a high price, and in the blink of an eye, she wanted to buy it back. If this transaction went through, the other party would definitely think that she was an idiot. What are you guarding here for? Leave the equipment gathering to Jiannan Yu and the others. Slender Waist Dance understood Misty Mang's intentions and yawned disapprovingly. Wouldn't it be great if I could buy it back? Misty Mang said. If you bought it back, where would I find Jiannan Yu to take revenge? Slender Waist Dance said. Helping Misty Mang get back the magic staff was important, but for her, she had to take revenge for her own personal grudge. Misty Mang was ashamed. She had been selfish and forgot that Slender Waist Dance still had a personal grudge to take. The magic staff was just bait that she wanted to use. Forget it, your magic staff is more important. Just guard it here. If anyone dares to come and take it, I'll smash them to death with money. Slender Waist Dance said majestically. What if they don't sell it no matter what? This was Misty Mang's biggest worry. Slender Waist Dance clearly hadn't been corrupted by money to the point where she believed that money was omnipotent. She still valued this possibility. In the end, she could only sigh, then I'll just have to steal it. What? The players in the auction house immediately moved 10 meters away from the two of them. As soon as the two of them came in and poked at the NPC, the The players in the auction house, which was full of rumors, were already suspicious. However, no one was willing to associate these two beautiful girls with something as shameless as robbery. Until Slender Waist Dance personally said that she wanted to rob them. How could they not avoid her? Motherfucker, that was close. Honey trap, too vicious. Nowadays, robbers always do these kinds of smart crimes. It's really hard to guard against. The players all thought to themselves. Chapter 580. Boundless Mang, who had accumulated rich experience in a series of anti-encirclement competitions, quickly noticed the strangeness of the surrounding crowd. In a sense, Slender Waist Dance was as arrogant as Han family young master. She didn't realize this at all. She glared at a player who was in front of the queue but didn't pick up his goods. He was looking at the two of them in a daze and shouted, "What are you looking at? Have you never seen a beauty before? Come and get your stuff." Just as she said this, she was grabbed by Boundless Mang and dragged out. Most people would subconsciously be more lenient toward these two girls. They didn't think of making a move before they understood what was going on. If it were glue and flaming clothes, they would have been scolded by the crowd. "Why are you running?" Slender Waist Dance had already run out, but she didn't feel anything strange. "You're speaking too loudly. They think we're robbers," Boundless Mang said. "Who dares?" Slender Waist Dance put her hands on her hips and glared. She turned around and saw that half of the players were still looking at the two of them. Now, Slender Waist Dance could see the bewilderment in their eyes. "Let's go with your plan and wait for their reply." Boundless Mang didn't want any more trouble and hurriedly pulled Slender Waist Dance away. Kenan Yu didn't know how many nights he hadn't slept. Ever since he entered the parallel world, he had been making full use of the time when there were fewer players online. Today was the first time he was like a normal person, but he couldn't fall asleep no matter what. Work wasn't going his way, and his career had reached a bottleneck. This was the problem that Kenan Yu was currently struggling with. Today, the brothers didn't even say goodbye to each other when they went offline. It could be seen that everyone was really depressed. Staff. In Kenan Yu's heart and mind, he counted staff as sheep. After counting more than 1,000 times, he finally fell asleep. The next morning, when he went online, the brothers were all there. Everyone greeted each other and didn't say much. No one asked about the schedule for the day. Everything seemed very careful. Kenan Yu didn't have anything to say. He went to the mailbox at the city gate as usual. He had to check the in-game mail every day. He couldn't stay online 24 hours a day. Often, business would be delivered to him through mail when he wasn't around. He checked his mailbox every day, but that didn't mean he had business every day. He casually read a few letters, but they were all meaningless gossip. When he saw a letter from Slender Waist Dance, Jian Nan was greatly shocked. He read the letter again and again 5 times. If it was before this, receiving a business order from the number 1 RMB warrior in the game would be great news for Southbound Sword and the others. This was also the main reason why Southbound Sword and the others weren't willing to become enemies with Thin Waist Dance. Most of the people who would have business dealings with them were RMB warriors, and Slim Waist Dancer was a big customer that they dreamed of. At this time, Jian Nenyu could only sigh that this letter came too late. With the current entanglement between the Slender Waist Dance and them, Jian Nenyu only came to one conclusion after reading this letter 5 times. A trap. Another trap to lure them out. Jian Nanyu was about to delete the letter, but he suddenly stopped at that moment. This was a trap, but it wasn't completely useless. Thinking of this, Jian Nanyu quickly gathered the others and told them in detail about Slender Waist Dance's letter. Silence. The other 6 people were like blocks of wood. After hearing the entire situation, they were expressionless and didn't say a word. It was clear that this letter didn't make them think at all. Jian Nanyu sighed and could only speak, "This letter is another trap, but we can make use of it." The 6 of them stared at Jian Nanyu with listless eyes. "In my opinion, they want to use our hands to take back the staff and kill us at the same time. They want to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. However, we can beat them at their own game." Jian Nanyu said. There was still no reaction. Jian Nanyu couldn't just sit there and do nothing. He looked at the 6 of them and said, What do you guys want to say? Great South, you still don't want to give up? The one who spoke was Horini. He was the one who had suffered the greatest psychological blow. Give up? You guys want to give up? Jian Nanyu looked at the 6 of them. The 6 of them didn't speak, but Jian Nanyu still understood what they meant. They didn't want to give up, but they didn't have confidence. They were hesitating. In fact, it was the same for Jian Nanyu. Since he fell asleep counting the magic staff last night until he woke up today to read the letter, he was originally in a hesitant state without confidence. When he saw this letter, a glimmer of hope ignited in his heart. Even if we give up, it's not the last moment yet. Jian Nanyu waved the letter in his hand at the 6 of them. What's wrong with this letter? As expected, the 6 of them didn't think at all. I've already said that they want to borrow our hands to retrieve the staff. So, before we retrieve the staff, they shouldn't cause us any more trouble. We should take this opportunity to successfully retrieve the staff first. Jian Nen said. Are you sure? Maybe they're just trying to lure us out again. Blackwater took the letter from Jian Nanyu and wanted to read it. However, she was speechless after reading it. Jian Nanyu made the situation sound complicated, but there were only a few words in the letter. Double the price, I want the staff. It was signed Slender Waist Dance. The others also read it one by one. In the end, they only had one thought. It's good to be rich. Look at the tone of the letter. It was so arrogant and domineering. Everyone couldn't help but think of how hard it would be to negotiate a deal with Silvermoon, mincing every single cent and mincing every single cent. Why didn't they get Slender Waist Dance as an excellent customer? Instead, they were fighting with her for Silvermoon. Fate really played with people. What a good girl. Everyone sighed. Normal players looked down on players with money, but Jian Nanyu and the others liked players with money the most. Even so, we still can't be sure if she's buying it or not. Glue reminded everyone. With their current situation with Slender Waist Dance, it was a bit careless to simply believe that it was a business deal. Jian Nanyu nodded, so we still need to make some necessary preparations. Then he looked at Glue and Fire-Blazing Jacket. I was careless yesterday. I should have been prepared for them to wait at the wanted mission area. After all, they know about the Windchaser emblem. Jian Nanyu admitted his mistake to raise everyone's morale. He wanted everyone to realize that their defeat yesterday wasn't because the other party was too strong, but because of their own mistakes. In other words, if they didn't make any mistakes, then they would have a chance of winning. So we need to monitor the wanted mission area first. Jian Nanyu said. I'll go. Blackwater volunteered. With Qianli's drunk and 100 Years strategist working together, this place was the most dangerous. Blackwater, who had stealth, felt that this place was more suitable for him. Glue sighed. Originally, his long-distance surveillance was also very safe, but it was a pity that he was level 39 and didn't have Hawkeye anymore, so he couldn't do it. Then you go. Jian Nanyu said. Blackwater nodded. Then I'll go now. Be careful. Everyone acted as if they were sending him to a tiger's den. They gave him their blessings and watched as Blackwater's figure disappeared around the corner of the street. What about the auction house? We don't even know if the staff has been taken. Glue said. You go to the auction house. Jian Nanyu looked at Dao Xiangmu. In theory, anyone could do the job of monitoring the auction house, but Jian Nanyu specifically chose Dao Xiangmu. There seemed to be a deeper meaning behind it. It's a little troublesome. If we keep watching like yesterday, we might not be able to. Glue thought back to the scene of being scolded by the crowd and felt a lingering fear. We can't do that anymore. Jian Nanyu nodded his head. He took out a roll of paper from his pocket and laid it on the ground. He took the paper and drew a few big words. After that, he took out a wooden board and stretched out his hand towards the glue. Glue. I said give me some glue. Jian Nanyu said. Glue wiped his sweat and took out some glue from his pocket. Jian Nanyu stuck the paper onto the wooden board and stuffed it into Dao Xiangmu's arms. Dao Xiangmu hugged the wooden board and sweated profusely. Do we have to do this? On the wooden board, there were 7 words. Looking to buy the ideal staff. Jian Nanyu nodded. This way, no one will suspect you. Dao Xiangmu finally understood why Jian Nanyu wanted him to do this job. Of course, a priest was the most reasonable choice to purchase this staff. Although their party had 2 priests, the other priest, Lin Sensen, was an extremely honest fellow. He was the type of person who wouldn't say a single word even if he was hit with a stick. This kind of thing that attracted attention in public was probably more painful than death for him. Sometimes, Ken Nam Yu and the others were surprised. Why would such an honest fellow engage in such evil robbery like them? Take the wind-chasing emblem and accept a mission. We'll help you complete it. Jian Nanyu said. Okay. Dao Xiangmu nodded. Are there any other questions? Jian Nanyu asked. Can I cover my face? No, it's easy to arouse suspicion. Covering one's face would inevitably make people think that they were doing something shameful. Hence, when it came to such matters, not covering one's face was a necessary choice. For example, Glue and Flame Cloak did not cover their faces yesterday. No problem. Dao Xiangmu only felt that it was a little stupid to hold up the wooden board. He was too ashamed to see anyone, so he wanted to cover his face. You'll be the only one going to the auction house. The rest of you do the same as yesterday. Pay attention to your revival points and prepare your equipment. Jian Nanyu said. The other 4 nodded. Then let's help Dao Xiangmu complete a wanted mission first, then we'll start. Jian Nanyu announced. Dao Xiangmu sighed and placed the wooden board back into his pocket. He took the wind-chasing emblem from Glue and wore it. He then went to the wanted mission office to accept a mission. About half an hour later, Whitestone City's auction house had a performance art. An expressionless priest was holding up a board in the auction house, looking to buy the ideal staff. Chapter 581. Whitestone City's auction house had been restless for the past 2 days, and many people had heard about it. Yesterday, there was an unprecedented buying frenzy, followed by the appearance of 2 robbers. Following that, it was said that there were 2 beautiful ladies who were suspected to be robbers in the middle of the night. Many people were still regretting that they had missed out on a good show. In the end, a performance artist suddenly appeared in the auction house early in the morning. There was no private chat channel in the parallel world that could be seen by everyone with a shout. Therefore, it was slightly inconvenient to do business. However, it was also because of this that the game's offline trading forum was unusually popular. Players from all over the game would appear there when they wanted to buy or sell anything. There were countless trading forums, but it was still popular. In fact, it was quite surprising for an exquisite piece of equipment like the Boundless Ideal Staff to appear in the auction house. It was also common for such an exquisite item to be listed in the trade board to be promoted to the world. In the end, just as the ideal staff was sold in the auction house, another man immediately appeared in the auction house to buy it. Such a creative and targeted idea immediately attracted a lot of attention. Brother, aren't you tired of doing this? Someone even came up to interview him. It's all right. Dao Xiangmu did not want to be distracted, so he stared at the place where the item was being sold and casually answered the interview. Everyone could clearly see where he was looking at. This time, no one suspected that he was a robber. They all laughed and said, Brother, you're really considerate. You want to buy the staff from the person who bought the ideal one yesterday? Dao Xiangmu nodded. Speaking of which, I also heard that the person who bought the staff yesterday didn't come to collect the staff after the auction ended. Someone said. So, he still hasn't come? Who knows? As the players discussed, they gave Dao Xiangmu a thumbs up. Dao Xiangmu could only smile bitterly. No matter what, Konami's strategy was extremely successful. He used such a method to attract everyone's attention. Instead, it gave everyone a preconceived idea and no longer suspected that Dao Xiangmu had other motives. In contrast, the others were having an easy time. Whether it was the wanted mission office or the resurrection points in the safety zones, there was nothing out of the ordinary. Ken and Yu thought hard for a long time to see if this could explain anything. After inadvertently glancing at his friend's list, he finally realized that most players had not woken up yet. He tried adding Thin Waist Dance as a friend, and sure enough, she wasn't online yet. Jian Nanyu replied to her letter. In the letter, he agreed to her request in all seriousness and told her how much the double reward would be, how long it would take to complete the mission, and the deposit. Jian Nanyu felt that if he wanted to put on an act, he had to go all the way. Since he was going to pretend to be hooked, he had to act as himself. It would be unreasonable if he didn't ask for a deposit. After adding Slim Waist Dance, Jian Nan tried all the names he knew, such as Drunk Chenli and 100 Eras of Wisdom, but none of them were online. This wasn't the time when most players were online, but because of this, there was a chance that the buyer, who had been hiding all this time, would show up at this time. Jian Nan had also been trying to figure out why this strange buyer had not shown up for a long time. He put himself in his shoes and felt that the other party was worried about being targeted by the robbers. That was why he was so cautious. If that was the case, it was highly likely that he would show up when there were fewer people. Jian Nanyu reminded Dao Xiangmu to be more careful. Dao Xiangmu was having a headache from being stared at by so many people. He felt that most of the players who came to the auction house early in the morning weren't here to buy or sell, but to see him. Dao Xiangmu decided to deal with the situation by staying the same. Facing all the onlookers, he held his sign up high and didn't move. In the afternoon, Jian Nanyu suddenly received a notification of a new mail. He immediately went to his mailbox and looked at the sender. As expected, it was Slim Waist Dance. He couldn't wait to read the content. In the end, Jian Nanyu's meticulous reply was only one word: okay. There was also a deposit of 1,500 gold that Jian Nanyu had requested. What a great customer! Jian Nanyu couldn't help but sigh. There was no haggling, no purposely making things difficult for her, no hesitation, just one word: okay. A deposit, simple and direct. Jian Nanyu didn't want to believe that this was a trap. He really hoped that they were working for Slim Waist Dance. Jian Nanyu imitated Slim Waist Dance's manner and replied with a okay. He was a little disappointed and hoped that Slim Waist Dance would reply again. Even though he knew it was impossible, Jian Nanyu still imagined the beautiful scene where Slim Waist Dance would bury the hatchet and become their top customer. Sigh. Just as he was sighing, he suddenly received a message from Glue. Danan, Silver Moon sent a message asking about the magic staff. Tell him to go die. Jian Nanyu wasn't in a good mood. Why were beautiful things always illusions, but reality was all trash? Glue was probably in Jian Nanyu's bad mood, so he was silent for a while before asking, really? Tell him that you'll contact him when the magic staff drops. It's not like it's past the appointed date. Why would he ask every day? Jian Nanyu said. Oh, just as Glue sent the message, Dao Xiangmu came again and said, Danan, this can't go on. If the buyer only appears at the end, I won't be able to hold up the sign for 7 days. Of course, Jian Nanyu wouldn't treat his brother as badly as he treated Silver Moon. He immediately explained, of course we won't make you hold it up for 7 days. You being there now is just the beginning. This way, we can hold it up for you at any time. The players will naturally think that we're helping you by the magic staff. Won't all their suspicions be cleared? If we really waste 7 days like this, then we'll lose a lot of money for this quest. Dao Xiangmu said. There's no other way. Before the quest, no one knew what would happen. The situation this time is complicated, so we can only say that we're unlucky. Now that there's a chance, if we really make you pay that trash Silver Moon double the deposit, then we'll lose even more money. Jian Nanyu said. How about this? I'll hold up the sign here and you guys don't need to worry about anything else. Do whatever you need to do and don't waste everyone's time here. Isn't Chenli going to cause a ruckus when he's drunk? Let's just stake it all on one throw. After we find out where the magic staff is, we'll gather and do what we need to do. What do you think? Dao Xiangmu said. Jian Nanyu thought about it and felt that it made sense. He nodded his head and told the others about it. Other than Dao Xiangmu, everyone else went to level up. If they didn't even level up and just squatted around for a week, their losses would be too great. On Slender Waist Dance's side, she received Jian Nanyu's reply when she logged on. Double the price, time needed, deposit, everything was clear. Actually, it was impossible for Slender Waist Dance to say that she hadn't dealt with this kind of person before. Although she had a lot of money, money didn't represent her character. None of the equipment and skill scrolls she had on her body were obtained through luck. They were all bought with money. As for which of these sellers were honest players, which were despicable scammers, and which were bandits like Jian Nanyu, she naturally didn't care. Perhaps one of the items on her body was stolen goods. She had seen a business letter like Jian Nanyu's before, so she wasn't surprised at all. She happily replied Jian Nanyu's letter and paid the deposit. Slender Waist Dance then took the letter and went to look for Vast Mang. "See, I told you it was easy to hook." Slender Waist Dance slapped the letter for Vast Mang to see. Mang, who was in a daze, read the letter carefully 3 times. This was all Jian Nanyu's performance. Naturally, there were no loopholes in the letter. However, Jian Nanyu agreed so readily that she could not help but have some doubts. "You already paid the deposit?" Vast Mang asked as she poked at the 1,500 gold deposit. Jian Nanyu's letter said that if the reward was double, the quest would be 8,000 gold, so she needed 1,500 gold as a deposit. "Aren't you afraid that he's just trying to scam you out of money?" Vast Mang felt that Slender Waist Dance's wariness was too low. "No, after I received the letter, I went to the auction house to take a look. Guess what? One of their clerics was holding up a sign saying, 'Buying Ideal Magic Staff.' They were just waiting for the magic staff to appear. I saw that they were doing something, so I sent him the money." Slender Waist Dance said, "Is it really that simple?" Vast Mang felt that things were going too smoothly. "That's right, I have to tell those guys not to cause trouble for now. Right now, they're helping us get the magic staff." Slender Waist Dance didn't think too much. Just as Jian Nanyu expected, she paved the way for them and went to find the Han family young master. Jian Nanyu's reply was caught by the Han family young master and tossed to the side. Beside him, Brother Yu immediately picked it up and studied it carefully. Double the price is 8,000 gold, so the original price is 4,000 gold. The normal price for an ideal magic staff is 2,000 gold, which means that their manpower cost is 2,000 gold. There are a total of 7 people, so on average, it's less than 300 gold per person. However, the quest duration is estimated to be 10 to 15 days. Is there a relationship between the amount of money they charge and the duration? This ratio? Under everyone's sidelong gaze, Brother Yu's voice gradually became softer and softer. Finally, he picked up his small notebook and silently went to a corner to calculate. "What do you mean?" Han family young master then asked about the matter at hand. "I'll pay double the price for them to give me the magic staff that they get. Don't cause trouble for now," Slender Waist Dance said. It was originally a very annoying thing to speak in a rich and imposing manner, but for some reason, when it came to Slender Waist Dance, everyone felt that it was so peaceful and natural. It seemed that reputation was really a terrible thing. Everyone had subconsciously thought that this kind of temperament and Slender Waist Dance were natural. If it was not so, everyone would feel uncomfortable all over. "This is troublesome, we have to use a pipe," Han family young master said. "In addition, the 100-generation strategist is the hatchet man you hired. Of course, your words are effective, but that guy Qianli has a strong interest in chopping Jian Nanyu. I don't know if he will listen to your arrangements." "He dares not to listen," Slender Waist Dance shouted. "Of course he dares." Han family young master laughed. "Butterfly knot. I haven't been in a good state of writing these 2 days, but when I saw the post in the book review section today, I noticed that the book has really written 2 million words. Congratulations to yourself, you're too ruthless." Chapter 582. Slender Waist Dance was quite depressed. She really didn't know what to do with Gu Fei. However, even though Gu Fei was strong, he wasn't an unreasonable person. Fighting was his passion, but he also understood how other players prioritize things in the game. If he didn't understand this, Gu Fei wouldn't have jumped out to show off during the auction. It was impossible that he didn't know that his appearance would only bring harm to Jian Nanyu and the others. Thinking about this, Slender Waist Dance felt that Gu Fei shouldn't be an obstacle. She didn't think that when Gu Fei came online that night and told him about the plan, Gu Fei would shake his head like a rattle drum. "How can you do this?" Gu Fei said, Jian and Yu and the others went to steal someone's equipment. It's fine if you don't stop them, but you're acting behind the scenes to reap the benefits. Isn't that too ridiculous? Yeah, how can you do this? 100 Era's strategist said. Slender Waist Dance was flabbergasted. She didn't expect this reaction. Although most players wouldn't do something like this just because they wanted someone else's equipment, they wouldn't mind using this kind of method in desperate times. She didn't expect Gu Fei to object because of this reason. Looking at the others, the Han family young master looked like he already knew about this. Clearly, this was the reason why he gave Slender Waist Dance a hint. It wasn't because of Gu Fei's love for PvP. At this moment, he had a relaxed expression on his face as he waited to see how Slender Waist Dance would deal with this. Slender Waist Dance didn't say anything because she remembered that Gu Fei had told her that martial artists had strict moral standards. It seemed like Gu Fei wouldn't back down on this matter. Then what should we do? Slender Waist Dance didn't try to persuade him or get angry. Instead, she scratched her head and asked this question, making everyone's jaws drop. This didn't fit her personality. Since you have the money to hire Jian and Yu, why don't you just buy the staff? Gu Fei said. I'm willing to buy it, but he has to be willing to sell it first. Thin Waist Dance said. If he doesn't want to sell, you're going to rob him? Gu Fei asked. Slender Waist Dance had no choice but to push Boundless Mang out. You go talk to him. Playing online games, isn't it just you killing me and I killing you? Mang didn't have any psychological barriers to this. Even those who came from Moonlit Night City didn't have this barrier. There's an order. If people don't blow me up, I won't blow them up. Gu Fei said. Boundless Mang retreated in defeat. Yutian Shenming jumped out and said, Qianli, you're really something. A beauty's request, you actually Gu Fei glanced at Yutian Shenming, and this brat immediately shut his mouth and retreated. Unscathed in battle saw that Yutian Shenming had already suffered, so of course he wouldn't touch this bad luck again. Slender Waist Dance looked at the others who didn't speak, hoping that they would have words to convince Gu Fei. In the end, Brother Yu hugged his little notebook and calmly pretended not to see it. Sword Demon nodded, coughed, and said, Qianli is right. Slender Waist Dance was helpless and looked at Boundless Mang. Boundless Mang sighed and was completely in despair. Let's forget about the staff. I've spent all 1,500. Slender Waist Dance was indignant. Just take it as a lesson learned. Gu Fei was still lecturing people. Slender Waist Dance couldn't beat him in a fight, and she wasn't in the right either. She could only use her gaze to kill. Then what do you think we should do now? Slender Waist Dance asked. What else can we do? Let's just find him to kill. Gu Fei said. If we don't use this method, how can we lure him out to kill? Slender Waist Dance actually spent so much money just to help Boundless Mang get back the staff. What she wanted the most was to kill Sword Nan Yu and take revenge. Even if you don't buy them, they'll still try to steal the staff. Just keep guarding it. Gu Fei said. Then you go and guard it. Slender Waist Dance said unhappily. I'm going. In the end, Gu Fei really left just like that. This time, 100 Lives Jingluan didn't leave with Gu Fei. He finally knew who hired him this time. He looked at Slender Waist Dance and asked, Then what about me now? Go. Guard it together. Slender Waist Dance impatiently sent 100 Lives Jingluan away. When the two of them left one after another, Slender Waist Dance suddenly put away her scowling face and started laughing. Everyone was confused. They thought to themselves that this girl wouldn't be so angry that she became stupid, right? In the end, Slender Waist Dance hugged Boundless Mang's shoulder and said, Let them go. Anyway, he'll be offline in 2 or 3 hours. When that time comes, we'll do what we have to do. Everyone looked at each other. This was really Gu Fei's weakness. The game was fixed for 3 hours a day. How could it be so coincidental that everything would happen during these 3 hours? The buyer of the staff might not even show up during these 3 hours. In the auction house, Sword Nan Yu was already personally raising the signboard. In the morning after Dao Xiangmu started, a few people took turns in 2 or 3 hours. Glue and Flaming Cloak, who had already appeared in the auction house and were judged to be robbers, benefited from this misfortune. Sword Nanyu was worried that the two of them would be recognized and ruin their overall plan. One of the necessary steps during the shift change was to let the person who came to replace them wear another wind-chasing emblem and complete a wanted mission. It was also a good opportunity to check if there was an ambush at the wanted mission office. If they passed by, they could also check the resurrection points. There was nothing unusual everywhere, which made Sword Nanyu feel more and more at ease. He didn't expect that the other party would really think that he would betray them for money. They really underestimated his professionalism. However, it was just as well. If he didn't underestimate them, how could he have such a good chance to get the staff so quietly? Jian Nanyu was thinking happily in the auction house. Suddenly, someone came to his side without him noticing. Sword Nanyu turned his head to take a look. He knew that this was the absolute safe zone, but he still broke out in a cold sweat. Gu Fei had appeared beside him without him knowing. Glancing at the signboard in his hand, Gu Fei said, "You really have a lot of tricks." The two of them had been enemies for a long time, but they had never talked so closely. Sword Nanyu's mind was spinning. There was only one question he was trying to figure out: what is this guy doing here? In the end, Gu Fei quickly gave him the answer. He suddenly shouted to the players in the queue, "Everyone, be careful. This person is Sword Nanyu. He specializes in robbing in the game. Especially those who have bought the ideal staff, be careful." Fuck. Sword Nanyu was shocked. Although he didn't guess Gu Fei's intention, he thought that since Slender Waist Dance had greeted him, he might have come to threaten them. He didn't expect Gu Fei to ruin their plan. How did Slender Waist Dance greet them? Gu Fei's words naturally caused an uproar. The news of the robbers appearing in the auction house had been digested for a day, and it had spread far and wide. It would have been fine if Gu Fei hadn't shouted. Everyone who passed by took a glance and thought that Sword Nanyu's signboard was a joke. Now that he reminded them, everyone began to think deeply. Using such a crude method instead of going to the forum was already suspicious. However, everyone knew that the ideal staff had just been put up for auction 2 days ago, and it was said that the buyer had yet to show up. So, such a crude method of waiting for a rabbit to appear was much more reliable than going to the forum. However, after hearing Gu Fei's words, everyone immediately realized that these guys didn't want to buy it. They wanted to figure out the owner of the ideal staff and then drop it. What happened next was almost a repeat of what happened to Glue and Fire Blazing Coat yesterday. The players surrounded Sword Nanyu angrily and scolded him to their heart's content. But Sword Nanyu was indeed the boss. Compared to Glue and Fire Blazing Coat yesterday, he was much calmer. Anyway, no matter how many people surrounded him, they couldn't touch or spit on him. He calmly put away the wooden signboard and calmly sent a message to his brothers, "Go to the wanted office and take a look. Be careful." Something happened again? The other side asked quickly. Yes, Qianli suddenly came over and exposed my identity when he was drunk. I really don't know what they want. They want us to help them drop equipment and now they're here to cause trouble. Sword Nanyu said. After everyone was silent, Glue sent a message. "Danan, why don't you admit defeat this time? Let's give up on this mission." Does everyone think so? Sword Nanyu knew that they were all together. The answer was likely to be discussed and then passed on through Glue's mouth. Glue responded. "Sai, let's talk about it after I get away." Sword Nanyu's wind-chasing emblem was on standby at this time. However, he wouldn't use it until he was sure that it was safe. The crowd was surging. Sword Nanyu could no longer see where Gu Fei was. He could only grit his teeth in hatred. Glue and the others carefully arrived at the wanted office. They didn't dare to go too close. After observing from all angles and levels, they confirmed that there was no one. However, this was only because there was no one outside the house. It was entirely possible that someone was lying in ambush inside the house. If that was the case, entering the door was equivalent to looking for death. The few of them looked at each other, not knowing what to do. Suddenly, a newbie player hopped past. Dao Xiangmu had a plan. He stopped the newbie player and gave him a few gold coins. He asked him to go in and help them take a look. When he returned, he would give him a piece of equipment. The newbie player happily went in and didn't return from the mission. He described the players and classes he saw inside. There was only one person in the wanted office, a Grandmaster of Combat. 100 generations of experience. Glue and Blazing Jacket immediately said, "They were trampled to death by this guy yesterday." There was indeed an ambush. Everyone sighed. "Thank you, there's nothing else for you." Dao Xiangmu casually gave the newbie a piece of equipment and sent him away. Everyone hurriedly reported the situation to Sword Nanyu. "If that's the case, then let's just wait. I was going to raise my sign here anyway," Sword Nanyu said. Everyone was in pain. Sword Nanyu said it casually. However, he was definitely being condemned by everyone in the auction house. Glue and Blazing Jacket had already experienced this yesterday. It wasn't a good feeling. However, the problem was that 100 generations of experience was not an ordinary person. Although there were 6 of them, they didn't dare say that they were a match for him. Or should we lure him away? Glue and Blackwater, the 2 classes with speed, suggested. Yes, that's a way. No matter how strong he is, he doesn't know how to split himself. He won't be able to outrun you guys. It shouldn't be a problem. Everyone agreed with this decision. Chapter 583. Aeon's statecraft isn't fast, unlike Qianli's drunken punch. The 6 of them felt this idea was brilliant. Then I'll go. Blackwater volunteered. Glue had just died a heroic death yesterday, so they didn't want him to be hurt again. We'll keep an eye on him. If it doesn't work, we'll group up and go. I don't believe he can survive. Mu Xiangmu said. Why not? It's not like we haven't tried. Don't be impulsive. The Invincible Knight's lucky star had spoken. During the Battle of Shoyu City, the 100 Lives strategist had made a move, and that was because he had been merciful. For example, Jian Nanyu, who had not been merciful, had been sent to the resurrection point. Jian Nanyu was the strongest among them. Blackwater set off under the encouragement of his brothers. He looked calm on the surface, but he was actually very nervous. Aeon's statecraft wasn't fast, but he was a monster. Blackwater was afraid that he wouldn't even have a chance to run away and his neck would be broken. In the end, he could only use the invincible self-hypnosis method. So what if I die? It's just a drop of 1 level. Blackwater walked to the door and took a deep breath. He pushed the door open and saw Aeon's statecraft standing inside. Without a word, he closed the door and ran. The direction and route were all chosen. Blackwater didn't have time to look back and ran like his life depended on it. Half a minute later, there was a message. Blackwater didn't have time to look at it. He continued to run like his life depended on it. After going through 8 streets, he looked back and was relieved when he didn't see Aeon's statecraft. Even so, he didn't dare to slack off. While trying his best to go to places with more people, he began to check the messages that kept ringing non-stop along the way. Where is he? Where's Aeon's statecraft? Where did you go? Didn't he chase you, idiot? What are you doing? A long string of messages were sent by his brothers. Blackwater was stunned. He found someone to reply, "What's going on? Damn, you're still alive? Where did you go? Don't you know how to look back? Aeon's statecraft didn't come out." Blackwater was talking to Dao Xiangmu. Blackwater was surprised. Did he see you? Dao Xiangmu asked. We saw you run after pushing the door. I saw it. He's standing at the door, and we'll see him as soon as we open the door. How can we not see him? Blackwater said affirmatively. Are you sure it's 100 Lives Classic as well? Inakami asked. It's him. That's strange. Dao Kagemu did not reply, and the others were also puzzled after hearing what he said. Blackwater hurriedly went back to the original spot. The other 5 people were still squatting there. Maybe I was too flustered and ran too fast, so he didn't see clearly which one I was. Blackwater thought about it on the way back and felt that this was the only reaction. At that time, he was too wary and ran away as soon as he opened the door. He saw it clearly, but he came prepared. It was too sudden for 100 Lives statecraft. Maybe when he noticed the door was opened, he saw Blackwater running away. Fuck. Everyone despised her. Blackwater volunteered to fight with a calm look, but it turned out that she was also nervous. I won't do it this time. Blackwater was also embarrassed. This time he was ready to risk it all. Hurry up, Danan is probably drowning in their saliva. Horny, who was experienced, said. Even in the safe zone, they can't spit on us, right? Blackwater turned back and asked. Everyone gave him a middle finger. In front of the wanted mission office, Blackwater took a deep breath. He realized that the last surprise attack had the opposite effect. He felt that he should slow down this time. The door was slowly pushed open by him. 100 Lives Classic stood in front of him, and the two looked at each other. How could he not see clearly? Blackwater was confident this time, so he closed the door and ran away. But with the lesson from last time, he couldn't just run without turning back. But before he turned back, he received a message. Blackwater's heart skipped a beat. He turned back and sure enough, no one was chasing him. He opened the message and it was the same brother's criticism. Everyone was questioning how Blackwater did things. Fuck, that's weird. Did that guy fall asleep while standing there? Blackwater was very depressed. He turned back, but he was afraid that 100 Lives Classic was just slow and would suddenly jump out at this moment. So he deliberately kept a distance from the wanted mission office. He turned his head and looked at the place where the other 5 people were hiding. They were pointing their middle fingers at him expressionlessly. I'll definitely see clearly this time. I promise. Blackwater swore to everyone. Can you make a move after you're sure he's going to take action? Don't worry. He's much slower than you, and he can't run as fast as you. If he's chasing closely, I'll help you distract him. Glue said, I'm really not afraid. Last time was enough for him to see clearly. Blackwater was depressed. He couldn't clear his name even if he jumped into the Yellow River. Back in front of the door, Blackwater gritted his teeth and decided to go all out this time. He kicked the door open boldly and glared at 100 Lives Classic. 100 Lives Classic was still standing in the same position. When he heard the sound of the door, he glanced over and then looked away again. He was very bored as he flipped through the wanted mission on the wanted menu. Blackwater was at a loss for half a minute. The other 5 people were also very surprised. Blackwater was too manly this time. He opened the door and stood there for half a minute without moving. What were they doing? Half a minute later, 100 Lives Classic was still busy with his own work. Blackwater couldn't bear it anymore and asked, What are you doing? Come and kill me. 100 Lives Classic turned his head and looked around again. There were only 2 of them in the entire wanted mission office. Talking to me? 100 Lives Classic asked. Of course. Blackwater said. Who are you? 100 Lives Classic was surprised. Blackwater was confused in the wind immediately. He now knew why 100 Lives Classic didn't chase him twice. It wasn't that 100 Lives Classic didn't see clearly, but that 100 Lives Classic didn't know him at all. Although they had dealt with each other before, it was all in a hurry and then they parted. Of course, 100 Lives Classic had left a deep impression on everyone. It was Blackwater's fault that he didn't treat himself as a character and thought that 100 Lives Classic would remember his appearance. Now he knew that he was just a passerby in 100 Lives Classic's eyes. Just like the newbie player who helped them to confirm the situation in the wanted mission office, who would recognize him after a few days. Obviously, Blackwater was such a trash in 100 Lives Classic's eyes. The top 5, top 10, and top 7 were just bubbles in front of such a master. He could break them with one finger. Blackwater was there, but 100 Lives Classic was still surprised. Seeing that the man didn't respond, he asked again, Who are you? I'm with Jen Nanyu. Blackwater answered. He was really worried that 100 Lives Classic would ask again, What's Jen Nanyu? Fortunately, the tragedy didn't happen. 100 Lives Classic answered with an oh, and then asked, Where's Jen Nanyu? Why isn't he here yet? Blackwater was a little relieved. Finally, their boss had some status in 100 Lives Classic's eyes, and he wasn't a passerby who couldn't even recognize him. If you want to see our boss, you have to go through me first. Blackwater roared, and then he was ready to run. As long as he lured 100 Lives Classic away, his goal would be achieved. However, 100 Lives Classic glanced at him again and said, Crazy. Then he went to browse the wanted mission panel. Blackwater broke down. 100 Lives Classic really didn't care about him. It was like fighting against an enemy on the battlefield. If you wanted to lure the enemy's general to chase after you, you should at least have the same amount of people. You were just a small foot soldier who would care about you if you tried to lure Lubu. If you really wanted to pester someone to attack you, you would be cut with a halberd. You wouldn't get any attention at all. That was Blackwater's current situation. He couldn't lure him, and he didn't dare to attack him. He just stood there like an idiot. In the end, Blackwater didn't even know how he retreated with shame. As soon as Blackwater came out, he ran toward the 5 people, which startled them. They thought that he was crazy. In the end, he came out, but there was still no movement behind him. It was too abnormal. This time, Blackwater had been in there for a long time. They thought he was dead, but he still didn't come out. There must be something wrong. What happened? Blackwater and the 5 people couldn't wait to ask him. Blackwater's face twisted like a bitter gourd, and he said painfully, "He didn't know me." They didn't understand at first, but after thinking for a while, they understood what he meant. Then I introduced myself. He only cared about where Danan was, and didn't want to talk to me. Blackwater said gloomily. How could that be? Then he trampled me to death yesterday. Hua Lini said angrily. Maybe because we met Qianli yesterday and got drunk? Qianli recognized us when he was drunk, Glu said. Qianli was better when he was drunk. 100 Lives Classic is too arrogant. Blackwater hit the wall. They glanced at him and thought, what the hell is this? All of them had their minds twisted, and now they were actually paying attention to this kind of thing. Let me go. We just fought yesterday, I can recognize him. Glu said. That's no use, I already introduced myself. He's waiting for Danan now. Blackwater said. He's too stubborn. Everyone looked at him in disdain, but at the same time, they felt wronged. He didn't even want them. Using Gu Long's metaphor, it was like no one cared about a naked woman. This was a disgrace. Fight him. Dao Xiangmu shouted. Although he was a cleric, he was the more combative one among the 7 people. Calm down, don't make unnecessary sacrifices. We still have days to live. The others hurriedly persuaded him. As they persuaded, they reported the situation to Jiananyu. Jiananyu didn't care. You don't have to worry about it, go do what you need to do. Let's see how long they'll wait. I'll take care of 2 of them, or even a few of them. It won't be a loss. Everyone saw that Jiananyu was at his wit's end. They knew that Qianli wouldn't stay online for long once he was drunk. They were no match for him in the game, so they could only make a fuss here. It was basically the same as kicking the plug of the opponent if they couldn't beat him online. It was quite despicable, and Jiananyu was forced to do this. Damn it, it's all that bitch Silvermoon's fault. The 6 of them were completely out of control. After some thought, they blamed Silvermoon for the mission. We might even have to compensate him. They were even angrier at the thought. Let's teach this kid a lesson. The 6 of them looked at each other. They finally found someone to bully. Chapter 584. The 6 of them didn't say this to Jiananyu. Although they knew that Jiananyu hated Silvermoon, Jiananyu cared more about the reputation and credibility of the team. If word got out that they had harmed the team instead of completing the mission, the impact would be too bad. However, the 6 of them couldn't swallow their anger and needed to vent it out. Even 2 random passers-by wouldn't be enough. The 6 of them also needed something that could touch their souls. Other than Silvermoon, there was no one more suitable. Let's do it. Blackwater gritted his teeth. Originally, the one who suffered the most damage was Fiery Jacket, but after today's incident, Blackwater seemed to have caught up. We have to do it without leaving any traces. Glu said, if we go together, it'll be too conspicuous. That kid might see through us. Then what should we do? Let's pick a few people to go. Glu suggested. I'll go. They all raised their hands. The atmosphere was lively. Let's draw lots. Dao Xiangmu suggested. 4 people, the remaining 2 will be on standby. 4 people should be enough to take care of Silvermoon. Didn't you say that Silver Moon has a few experts with him? Lucky Star reminded. Don't worry, Silver Moon wouldn't dare let those people know about his deal with us, so he'll definitely come privately. Glue said. You're saying that we should invite him? Wouldn't that be too revealing? Lucky Star said. With the current situation, it's inevitable for us to invite him. Glue sighed. Everyone was silent for a long time. You're saying that the mission is going to be declared a failure? Someone finally spoke. Didn't everyone already think so? Glue said. Everyone sighed deeply. That's right, they all thought so when they went online today. But when Jianan Yu suddenly received a letter from Slender Waist Dance, they thought that there was still a chance. Who would have thought that Qianli would get drunk? This fellow didn't fit Jianan Yu's expectations at all. He continued to harass them and the situation wouldn't change. But what about Danan? Of course, Jianan Yu and the others understood. To put it nicely, he wouldn't give up until he achieved his goal. To put it bluntly, he wouldn't give up until he saw the coffin. Seeing that he could endure the humiliation of being surrounded by the crowd at the auction, it was obvious that he didn't think that he had to give up. The few of them immediately fell silent again. No one could bear to see Jian Nanyo's patience turn into a futile effort. Since he still wanted to work hard as brothers, they should support him to the end. Actually, there's no need to use our name to meet Silver Moon. Let's try using the mail method or the offline method. Inokagami suggested. The principle behind the so-called mail method and the offline method were the same. Players had to be at a fixed location to complete the operation to grasp the target's movements. It was the simplest but also the most effective method. No matter how amazing a player was, as long as they recognized the other party, they could use these two methods to locate the other party. Similarly, he could also use the trading method, and so on. Of course, it would be difficult for Silver Moon to encounter him in a crowded place like the trading hall, but it was hard to say for the other two places, especially the offline method, which had a 100% accuracy rate. With Silver Moon's current situation, even if she appears in these two places, she'll definitely wear a disguise. Do you guys have the confidence to recognize her? Glue mentioned this difficult problem, which was also the reason why he didn't mention this method in the beginning. Wearing a disguise is a big characteristic, and we know her class and level. With everyone's abilities, it shouldn't be a problem, right? Inokagami said. Everyone nodded. She might have dropped in level, but the experience from robbing was still there. This ability to identify a target wouldn't be lost no matter how many times she was killed, unless her level was so low that she couldn't identify the target. However, Silver Moon's level was even lower than theirs. Alright, let's make arrangements. Glue found the map of White Stone City. This kind of thing wasn't provided by the game system, but as the players' understanding of the game deepened, people with professional talents in this area began to make this kind of thing. The map of White Stone City in Glue's hands was said to be the work of a professional cartographer. The most suitable areas for Silver Moon to train in are the White River Valley, the Silver Beach, and the White Birch Forest. However, with his current situation, he definitely wouldn't dare to go to the more prosperous areas. Excluding these, the only possible places for him to be are here, here, and here. Glue skillfully sketched on the map. These places are the most suitable for Silver Moon to go back to the main city. The fastest way is to go through the East Gate and go to the Thief Guild or the Archer Shooting Range. Inokagami tilted her head. Based on the current situation in White Stone City, Silver Moon will definitely be hit when he's down if he's bumped into someone. However, there's absolutely no professional search or arrangement for him, so all he needs to do is disguise his identity. There's no need to go around in circles to avoid any security, so taking the shortest route to go offline as soon as possible is the safest way to prevent any accidents from happening. Then we'll set up an ambush in these two places. Me, Burning Clothes, and Lin Mu will go to the Archer Shooting Range. Blackwater, Inokagami, and Invincible will go to the Thief Guild. Let's do it like this. Everyone should hide your identity and communicate with each other. Let's go. Glue announced. Professional robbers didn't need intelligence, but rather experience. In a short few minutes, they had already sorted out their thoughts and set up a trap for Silver Moon. The two groups of 3 each headed to the 2 revival points. What made them happy was that these 2 revival points weren't the first choice after coming out of the auction house or the bounty office. In other words, they wouldn't be in danger of meeting Gu Fei and the 100-era strategist. This news made them excited. If only I could get his king's sword. Robbers were indeed robbers. Originally, they had planned to do it to vent their anger, but once they really started doing it, they were still thinking about whether or not they could get any rewards from the loot. Then let's see who's lucky. Glue smiled. Although they didn't know how long they had to wait, they weren't unfamiliar with this kind of situation. More importantly, killing Silver Moon wasn't difficult at all. They hadn't experienced this kind of relaxed atmosphere in a long time. They talked and laughed and the atmosphere changed. Everyone felt that using Silver Moon to vent their anger was a wise decision. Jianan Yu was still in contact with the others and prepared to set up an ambush for Silver Moon. In the end, they didn't hide it from him. Jianan Yu didn't want to do this, but he realized that this plan made his brothers excited. This was the good thing that he hoped for. Since that was the case, he wouldn't be stingy with sacrificing Silver Moon, the trash. Although this went against their professionalism, compared to the extraordinary significance of this matter, they could rebuild their professionalism in the future. In contrast, the 6 of them were more worried about Jianan Yu's situation in the auction house. However, Jianan Yu simply said, "It's fine." In the auction house, there were waves of people surrounding him. Yesterday, the 2 robbers didn't hesitate to use teleportation to escape after being surrounded by the crowd, which made the crowd secretly happy. However, today's robber was really arrogant. Facing everyone's criticism, his expression remained the same. He took out 2 cotton balls from somewhere and stuffed them in his ears. He then sat on the ground and took out a handwritten copy of Butterfly Blues, Crossing the Horizon, from his pocket and read it with relish. The players were going crazy, but they couldn't do anything to him in the absolute safe zone. Some people even brought up the GM to threaten him. Jianan Yu could only laugh at their childishness. Robbing was different from stealing accounts. They were taking advantage of the loopholes in the game. Since the game had set the rules that players would lose levels, equipment, and money in PK, it was a rule in the game. The concept of malicious PK was too vague. How would they determine it? Do they want witnesses or physical evidence? Jianan Yu had been in the online gaming circle for a long time. He didn't believe that the GM would have the time to care about this matter. Replying with, "Players settle their own disputes," was already good enough. "Do you think I'm a newbie? You're trying to scare me." Jianan Yu gave a middle finger to the players who threatened the GM and continued reading his book. The entire auction house was in an uproar. It was a huge mess. Gu Fei, who was in the crowd, was also angered to the point of suffering internal injuries. This guy was really shameless. In this kind of situation, he was still calm and collected. He really had a lot of faith in robbing. The voices of public opinion couldn't knock him down. Looking at the situation in the auction house, the normal business had been interrupted. If there were players who wanted to get their hands on the staff, they could forget about it. The NPC was near Jianan Yu, the core of the circle. Where could they go? They had to have superhuman willpower and perseverance. Even though Gu Fei was angry, he couldn't do anything. He didn't want to waste time with Jianan Yu, so he squeezed out of the auction house. Slender Waist Dance and Boundless Mang Mang, who were hiding near the auction house, stuck out their tongues. "That's too much. He's actually so vicious to expose someone's identity." That Han family young masters seemed to have done the same thing yesterday, Boundless Mang Mang said. "Jackals of the same tribe, jackals of the same tribe." Slender Waist Dance sighed. Jianan Yu is really shameless. He still hasn't left. I heard that the 2 small fries yesterday were scared away. Boundless Mang Mang continued to compare. Even if they flew away, they would still die. 100 Generations Jingluan isn't here. He's probably waiting at the wanted mission office. That's why Jianan Yu is hanging on. I think he wants to wait until Qianli goes offline. Slender Waist Dance had heard about how the 2 small fries died yesterday, so she could guess the plan of Gu Fei and 100 Generations Jingluan. If that's the case, Qianli really can't do anything about it, Boundless Mang Mang said. "Yes, go to sleep. Slender Waist Dance prayed. However, she saw Gu Fei walking toward their hiding place. Oh no, have we been discovered? Boundless Mang Mang immediately shrank his head. That can't be. Slender Waist Dance also shrank back. He can sense killing intent. Did you show any killing intent? What killing intent? What kind of killing intent can I have against him? I didn't either. While the two girls were muttering, Gu Fei had already arrived in front of them. Hi. The two waved at Gu Fei. What are you doing? Gu Fei asked. Ahem. It's getting late. Aren't you going to rest? Slender Waist Dance asked. Gu Fei already knew what this girl was thinking. He smiled and said, What's the rush? We still have to work tomorrow. Slender Waist Dance reminded him. Didn't I tell you? I'm a teacher. Gu Fei said. What's wrong with a teacher? Slender Waist Dance wanted to say something, but Boundless Mang Mang had already pulled her back. He frowned and said to her, It's winter break. Chapter 585. Fuck fuck fuck. Slender Waist Dance wanted to spit on Gu Fei's face. Seeing the two of them frowning, Gu Fei shook his head and said, Looks like you two haven't realized your mistakes. Go as far as you can. Slender Waist Dance's face darkened. That's good, Gu Fei said as he squeezed to the side of the two. He also peeked his head out from the wall and said, I still have to pay attention to Jian Nanyu's actions. Slender Waist Dance and Boundless Mango lost their original positions after being squeezed by him. Slender Waist Dance didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She stomped her feet and complained to Boundless Mango, Why is this person so annoying? Boundless Mango saw that with Gu Fei here, he wouldn't be able to use these unconventional methods to get back the magic staff. He could only helplessly pat him and say, Then keep an eye on him. If you see a buyer for the magic staff, ask him if he'll sell it to me for a high price. That's fine. I'll ask him for you when I see him. Gu Fei nodded. Then I'll be leaving first. Boundless Mango said goodbye to the two. Slender Waist Dance saw that Boundless Mango was actually saying goodbye to her and was confused. What? I'm leaving. I'm leaving too. Why are you leaving? Aren't you going to find Jian Nanyu for revenge? You can be with Chenli. Boundless Mango reminded her. That's right. Gu Fei interrupted without turning his head. Slender Waist Dance thought about it and realized that it was true. This was supposed to be her ultimate goal, but why did she feel so uncomfortable? I'm leaving. Boundless Mango said goodbye and left. Slender Waist Dance stayed where she was. When she saw Gu Fei's furtive behavior in the corner, she was so angry that she couldn't help but want to stab him with a knife. In the end, before she could get into position, Gu Fei reminded her without turning his head, Don't mess around. Slender Waist Dance banged her head against the wall. She was about to die from anger. How long are you going to wait? Slender Waist Dance asked. Until he comes out, Gu Fei said. What kind of grudge do you have against him? Slim Waist Dance was puzzled by Gu Fei's persistence. Getting rid of evil for the people. Gu Fei said. Slim Waist Dance was speechless. She didn't know how to comment on such behavior. What if he doesn't come out? Slender Waist Dance gritted her teeth as she spoke. I'm prepared. Gu Fei reached into his pocket and took out a book. If he can read, why can't I? Where did you get the books? Slim Waist Dancer was stunned. I don't know about his. Mine was made by the students of Encyclopedic Scholar, Gu Fei said. The Scholar of the 100 Lives is also a teacher? Slender Waist Dance's last glimmer of hope was shattered. She originally thought that Gu Fei was a teacher, but the Scholar of the 100 Lives couldn't possibly be one as well. If that was the case, Gu Fei could be there, but the Scholar of the 100 Lives would still have to go offline. In that case, Gu Fei wouldn't be able to take care of both sides by himself. In the end, it's more or less the same. Gu Fei didn't explain much. He turned around and smiled at Slender Waist Dance. Anyway, you know that there's a winter break. Ah. Slender Waist Dance roared in her heart. What book are you reading? Slender Waist Dance, who had regained some of her vitality, went over to take a look at Gu Fei's book. Gu Fei showed her the cover, 8 Extremities Door. What's this? It's about 8 Extremities Fist, Gu Fei said. Let me see. Slender Waist Dance thought that since she really had to squat like this, reading was indeed a good pastime. She would trick this guy into giving her the book and let him squat until he died of boredom. Gu Fei didn't think much of it and handed the book to Slender Waist Dance. Slender Waist Dance flipped to the first page. The first sentence was, beyond the 9 states, beyond the 8 yin, beyond the 8 hong, beyond the 8 hong, there are 8 extremities. Slender Waist Dance's hand trembled and the book fell to the ground. Gu Fei hurriedly picked it up, afraid that the book would be refreshed. Even if the Night Streak sword fell to the ground, he wouldn't be this nervous. Just as he was about to say a few words to Slender Waist Dance, he saw that the girl had already run away crying. If you don't understand, you can ask me. Seriously. Gu Fei muttered as he dusted off the book. Slender Waist Dance, who was crying, quickly caught up to Boundless Mang and hugged Boundless Mang. I'll never play with monsters again. Slender Waist Dance cried. Inside and outside the auction house, the Wanted Mission Office, the Archer Shooting Range, and the Thieves Guild. 9 people, 5 places, and 2 books. Everyone was waiting for their own targets. Time passed by slowly, and nothing changed in any of the places. Those who were supposed to come never came, and those who were not supposed to come kept swarming in. Ah, this paragraph is well written. Gu Fei blabbered on about the paragraph in the book and sent it to Encyclopedic Classics. Yeah, I like this paragraph too. Encyclopedic Classics received the message and had an intense discussion with Gu Fei. Jian Nanyu was even more engrossed in the story. He held the book in one hand and stretched out 2 fingers of his other hand as if he was pinching a fly. The onlookers were very confused. They speculated if it was a new disdainful gesture, and the curses were endless. When Jian Nanyu saw the masked killer in the book, he felt even more familiar. He also took out a piece of cloth and covered his face. The onlookers who came later could not even see what Jian Nanyu looked like, and they cursed anxiously. As for the other 2 places, there were more people, so it was not lonely. One was playing Fight the Landlord, and the other was Tie the Golden Flower. They were games that Jian Nanyu and his team often played when they were waiting for their targets. They would not feel bored no matter how long they played. In the blink of an eye, it was already 11 o'clock. Under normal circumstances, it was time for Gu Fei to go offline. Gu Fei was Jian Nanyu's assassination target. At the same time, he was Jian Nanyu's imaginary opponent for a period of time. He knew Gu Fei's schedule as well as Gu Fei's friends. When he saw that it was about time, he tried to add him as a friend. In the end, he added Qianli Drunk as your friend. Jian Nanyu spat out a mouthful of blood. Qianli Drunk was too fucking fierce. He did not even turn off his friend request. Then, the system prompted, Qianli Drunk has added you as a friend. After adding the other party as a friend, the other party could not reject the friend request. This was the system's rule. What's wrong? Are you coming out? Gu Fei's message came. Jian Nanyu did not answer. His intention had been seen through by others. I'm not going to sleep today. I'll wait for you until dawn. This was bad news. Jian Nanyu broke down. He replied with a trembling voice, Why are you not letting us go? Getting rid of a pest for the people. It was still the same answer. You've already gotten rid of enough. Can you change to a pest? Jian Nanyu admitted that he was not a good person. Then introduce me. Gu Fei said. Jian Nanyu was depressed. Of course, he knew many people in the same industry. They cooperated, competed, hated each other, and even made use of each other. However, this kind of directly selling one's identity was extremely despicable in the circle. Jian Nanyu had a good character and did not want to be so unprincipled. Also, 100 Era Scholar doesn't sleep either. The bad news came one after another. Jian Nanyu was not in the mood to read novels anymore. What will it take for you to let us go? In the end, Jian Nanyu gave in. He had already admitted that he wasn't his opponent, but he never thought that the other side would sacrifice so much time to waste with him. After all, There were benefits to him wasting time, but the other side did not have such benefits. To kill one person, he sacrificed a week of time. A week was very precious in the game. Jian Nanyu understood the ways of the game. He knew that the more skilled a player was, the less likely they would make such a sacrifice. For example, Sword Demon and the others might not be willing to waste a week like this. However, this Qianli drunk was an anomaly. As an in-game player, he was too unprofessional. I've never thought about this problem. Gu Fei was speaking the truth. He really hadn't thought about it. Even though losing a level was a heavy punishment, they couldn't be killed. As long as they turned their heads, they could stand up again, turning over a new leaf. That was even more ridiculous. Gu Fei didn't think that he was strong enough to change their minds. Forcing them was even more unscientific. He could guard here for a day or two, but could he guard here for the rest of his life? What a sharp question. Gu Fei scratched his head. Jian Nanyu was even more depressed. This was the same as chasing them for no reason. There wasn't even a reason. Did he have to give up on robbing? Fuck, why did I come to the game if I didn't rob? Was I supposed to go back to farming gold? Jian Nanyu had been a professional gamer for many years, but he didn't have any ambitions. He had never thought of setting up a studio to make a proper living. He advocated freedom and just wanted to do some work for himself. As long as he didn't starve to death, it was fine. In his early years, he had been doing the simplest, low-end jobs like farming gold. As his gaming skills improved and he gained some opportunities, he also did some high-level jobs like gold farming. The rules of the game in the parallel world and the huge group of players made him set his sights on robbing people. Jian Nanyu was a famous professional gamer, but he wasn't a top expert like Sword Demon or Yutian Shinming that everyone knew. Jian Nanyu? Oh, I know, professional. Jian Nanyu's reputation in the online gaming circle could be summed up in 2 words: professional. After he arrived in the parallel world, he crazily leveled up in order to find a way out. He killed his way to the top 5. Jian Nanyu had a good eye. The robbing industry in the parallel world was very popular. As the saying went, it was easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but it was difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. He obviously couldn't accept doing the most difficult and tiring job of farming gold like he did in the beginning. If he wanted to change his profession, he would have to find a more profitable job. There were indeed such jobs in the parallel world. Take the map with glue, for example. The market price for such things that were hand-drawn by players wasn't low. Other than that, there were people making boats in Waterfront City, people making beautiful exteriors and interiors in various cities, and people making all kinds of beautiful accessories. Recently, there were rumors that some people even made cigarettes. However, all of these jobs had one thing in common. They all had to be supported by professional knowledge. Those who drew pictures had to know how to draw. Those who made clothes had to be either fashion designers or tailors. It was a tragedy for Jian Nanyu. He didn't know anything other than playing games. He was a professional gamer through and through. Other than playing games and robbing people, he really couldn't find a better way to make a living. Fucking Qianli was drunk and insisted on going against me. How could he let me go without saying anything? Does he really want me to die? Jian Nanyu thought in grief and anger as he suddenly stood up from the ground. The surrounding players were shocked. They weren't used to this guy who had been lying on the ground all this while suddenly standing up. What are you looking at? If you keep looking, I'll drop your equipment tomorrow. Jian Nanyu suddenly roared at the surrounding players. Fuck, you still dare to be arrogant. The cursing became louder. Jian Nanyu didn't respond. He only sneered and stared at the people who were cursing him fiercely. The players suddenly felt guilty. If they were really targeted, fuck, I don't even know these people around me. Now that there are so many people who would recognize me in the future, who would care about me, who would protect me. As they thought about it, the cursing gradually died down. Chapter 586. Azure's words gaze swept across the crowd coldly, showing an aura of disregarding life and death. The spectators became more and more diffident. Many people had already chosen to avoid Azure's gaze. There were also many who hid their faces. As the saying went, one could be a thief for 1,000 days, but one couldn't guard against a thief for 1,000 days. Moreover, in the game, one couldn't catch or kill a thief. It could be considered a lifelong career. What about normal players? Could it be that they had to guard against thieves for their entire lives? Especially those who stood at the front of the crowd, they were filled with regret. They felt that they had caused a lot of trouble. Even if they washed up, they would still leave behind a stench. They hid their faces and turned their heads, wanting to retreat. Azure also walked out proudly under such a situation. The players thought that it was best for him to leave now. Anyway, they had been confronting each other for so long. Since they had already offended him, it was useless to be afraid. If he dared to go out, they would kill him. After that, he would flee far away. He wouldn't be able to find him. With this thought in mind, no one stood up to stop Azure. Many people were already waiting for him to go out and get rid of a pest for the people. What was the point of hiding now? If he really wanted to, he would have already been targeted. Unexpectedly, Jian Nanyu didn't walk out of the crowd. Instead, he walked up to an auction booth from the crowd and started fiddling with his keyboard. The players who followed closely behind him looked at the interface he was operating. The search term was teleportation scroll. Fuck, someone shouted. This guy was going to use the teleportation scroll to disappear. It meant that he was still afraid. Guilty conscience, evil can't defeat justice. These were indeed the truth. With this thought, the players became excited again. The guy who was preparing to sneak up on Azure also revealed himself openly. He waved the scroll and circled above his head, cursing loudly. Azure ignored them. After searching, there really were teleportation scrolls in the auction house. According to current research, the drop rate of teleportation scrolls from spell-type monsters around level 50 was obviously higher. However, killing a level 50 monster that was 10 levels higher could only be done by an extremely strong team. In addition to the drop rate was still extremely limited. However, it was no longer the kind of high-end stuff that ordinary people had never even heard of. However, with the current production rate and the fact that it was a consumable item that could only be used once, there weren't many people who would treat it as a common item. In the eyes of ordinary players, it was basically an act of throwing money into the water and listening to the sound. Jianan Yoshi was here to earn money from the game, so it was even more impossible for him to do such a thing. Unfortunately, he was forced into a corner. Looking at the string of numbers behind the teleportation scroll, he felt his heart shatter. He gritted his teeth for a long time before slamming it down. Jian Nan turned around and someone immediately shouted, "Don't let him go." At this moment, the scroll had been won. However, Jian Nanyu still had to make a trip to the NPC who had delivered the scroll to obtain it. Jian Nan coldly stared at the player who shouted and nodded, "I'll remember you." This player couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. Just a moment ago, he thought that Sword Southbound had a guilty conscience and that evil would definitely lose. Now, that confidence was gone for some reason. He shrunk his neck, but he had no choice but to encourage himself. He stuck out his chest and said, "Who are you trying to scare?" Lali's saber, strength agility type. Current market price is 200 gold. Karen's armor. Not bad, but the stats are average. Market price is at most 100 gold. Control ring. This is not bad. Magic defense ring. Ice, fire and lightning magic resistance increases. Although the increase is a bit low, 500 gold is not a problem. Vitality emblem. Increases agility. It's a waste for you to use it. If you sell it to an archer or thief, it should be worth 300 gold. Jian Nanyu spoke slowly and actually commented on this player's equipment from head to toe. As he spoke, he took out a pen and paper to record everything he said. In the end, he sighed and said, "Everything on your body. 2,750 gold. You played quite well." There was complete silence. Jian Nanyu displayed the professional qualities that a robber should have. After verification, his evaluation of this player's equipment was not bad at all. For a moment, The players who were looking at this person were either appraising his equipment or looking at him as if he was a tragedy. Someone will contact you very soon. Jian Nanyu closed the small notebook in his hand as if he had just sentenced this guy to death. Then he looked at the others. Is there anyone else? Everyone's eyes started to flicker again. Jian Nanyu left the auction stage and walked out. The people in front of him avoided his gaze and unconsciously made way for him. Jian Nanyu sneered. He understood the thoughts of these ordinary players too well. The one he always misjudged was that guy, Chenli Drunk. That guy's thoughts were not a player's. Jian Nanyu thought of this name and broke the pen in his hand. Then, under everyone's gaze and without any obstruction, Jian Nanyu went to the NPC to pick up the goods and took the teleportation scroll. He turned around and glanced at the players who didn't dare to look at him. He shook the scroll and teleported away. The players were stunned for a long time. They looked at each other and didn't know what to say for a moment. Everyone's thoughts were the same. They were very unhappy to see such a savage robber, but they didn't dare to stand out in fear of being targeted. When one's own interests weren't really harmed, one's bravery would always be deeply hidden. Everyone was silent for a while before they started to leave the auction house dejectedly. After contacting Jian Nanyu, Gu Fei didn't hide in the corner anymore. He stood in the plaza outside the door and strolled around while reading a book. There were many people in the auction house, and he knew that they were there to watch Jian Nanyu. At this time, he suddenly saw a large group of people flocking out as if they had just finished a class. He immediately realized that Jian Nanyu had left the auction house and quickly sent a message to ask by Shi Jing of the Wanted Mission Office. No, I didn't see Jian Nanyu, 100 Generations Jingles replied with certainty. He didn't use the wind-chasing emblem. Gu Fei muttered. He knew that Jian Nanyu had seen through his actions. He grabbed a passing player and asked, "Where's Jian Nanyu, the robber?" "He left," the player said. "How did he leave?" "He bought a teleportation scroll and teleported away," the person replied. "He can get close to the auction stage?" Gu Fei was surprised. It was because of these people that he was certain that Jian Nanyu had no other choice but to log off or use the wind-chasing emblem. This person didn't say anything. It was clear that Jian Nanyu getting close to the auction stage wasn't something to be proud of. Simply put, everyone succumbed to the robber's despotic power. "I don't know." This person roughly answered Gu Fei's question and quickly left. Gu Fei was stunned. He immediately noticed that these scattered players all had a solemn air about them. This was a far cry from when they had first arrived, where they had been happily watching the robbers. What happened? Gu Fei asked a few more people. They all hid their thoughts and didn't want to face the problem. However, after a few people, Gu Fei roughly understood what was going on. In the end, he could only sigh deeply. The bad atmosphere that existed in the real world had been brought into the game. Who said that the internet was fake? Moreover, the game was scarier than reality. In reality, the criminal would have already been caught by the crowd and handed over to the relevant departments. Even if they weren't, they would be beaten to death by the crowd and wouldn't have to worry about revenge in the future. However, now that they knew that Wandering Azure Sword was only a player and that he could resurrect after death, everyone realized how frightening revenge could be. Gu Fei didn't blame these people. In today's world, even the public security department advised people not to fight back and caused them to lose their minds. The bad guys had the upper hand and the good guys lacked a sense of security. There's no need to waste time there. Jian Nanyu has already escaped. Gu Fei sent a message to 100 Reincarnations Jingluan. Where did he go? 400 Reincarnations Jingluan. Jian Nanyu's escape was equivalent to his income escaping. He used a teleportation scroll and was randomly teleported. I don't know where he went. Gu Fei said. Then what do we do now? 100 Reincarnations Jingluan asked. It looks like we won't be able to find him in a short amount of time. Go do your own thing. After Gu Fei replied to 100 Reincarnations Jingluan, he contacted Jian Nanyu. Do you dare to tell me where you are? How depressed was Jian Nanyu when he received this message? He wanted to blacklist Gu Fei, but after thinking about it, it was just 2 messages. Although it was mentally stimulating, it wasn't a big deal as long as he was strong enough. Who knows, he might even be able to get some useful information from it. He allowed Gu Fei to become his friend. Of course, he didn't reply to the "do you dare or not" message. He, who had just been teleported, was currently studying his location while contacting his brothers. With Qianli around, we won't have a good time. Jian Nanyu went straight to the point. What? The two teams of three were playing Landlord and playing Golden Flowers. They were having a great time when they suddenly received Jian Nanyu's message. This guy won't let us go. If we don't take him down completely, it will always be a problem. Jian Nanyu said. Can't we just stay away from him? Hualini said weakly. He really didn't have much confidence in this matter. The game was very big. It wasn't difficult to hide from someone, but Jian Nanyu couldn't take it lying down. A tree lives with its bark, and a man lives with his pride. Most people could throw away their pride for the sake of survival, but if they were to take it lying down, they would lose 10 years of their lives. Didn't that guy called Hongshan Yixiao say he had a way to deal with Qianli? I wonder how his plan is going. Glu reminded everyone that dealing with Qianli was their main mission in the next stage. Jian Nanyu and Hualini seemed to have forgotten about it. Chapter 587. That guy. On Hongshan Yixiao's side, Jian Nanyu had forgotten that Silver Moon's guess wasn't wrong. Jian Nanyu and the others had already made up their minds not to accept quests related to Qianli's Get Drunk. However, they had actually encountered a hero who was determined to destroy Qianli's Get Drunk. Jian Nanyu felt that rejecting him would be a blow to his enthusiasm. He should give him a slim chance to show encouragement. Therefore, he had casually made up a price of 20,000. 20,000 per level. Jian Nanyu was embarrassed by the ridiculous price. At that time, Glu had sent him a private message asking him if he was crazy. Before Jian Nanyu could answer, the other party started to ask him questions. In the end, Jian Nanyu felt that he wasn't crazy. The one who was crazy was this cleric who called himself Hongshan Yixiao. If his target wasn't Qianli's Get Drunk, Jian Nanyu suspected that he would wake up laughing in his dreams. However, even if it was Qianli's Get Drunk, Jian Nanyu felt that it was worth it to go all out for such a high reward. High risk corresponded to high reward. This was the truth. However, when they were discussing the details and asking for a deposit, the other party suggested that he wanted to gather money. Jian Nanyu laughed it off. 20,000 was a huge sum. It wasn't surprising that he couldn't afford it in one go. However, Jian Nanyu had only asked for a deposit. According to their habits, it should be around 3,000 to 5,000. This shouldn't be money that a rich player couldn't afford. Jian Nanyu suspected that the other party was trying to make fun of him. It was revenge for his ridiculous 20,000 price. Especially since he hadn't contacted him for the past 2 days, Jian Nanyu felt that this guess was reasonable. If he was really rich, he could easily gather 3,000 to 5,000 gold in 2 to 3 days. It was true that the guy wanted to deal with Qianli's Get Drunk, but he was most likely scared off by Jian Nanyu's 20,000. That was the case. How could he find such a sucker for a level of 20,000? Did he have a father grudge with Qianli's Get Drunk? Have you contacted that person recently? Jian Nanyu asked Glu. If the previous offer of 20,000 yuan was actually a refusal to the other party's invitation, then at this moment, Jian Nanyu really wanted to find someone to cooperate with to get rid of the scourge, Qianli, ruthlessly. No, I only saw him once at the auction, Glu replied. Auction? Jian Nan muttered these words. Their recent tragedies were all caused by this. He wanted to see the buyer after the auction, but he left when he didn't see anyone, said Glu. Jian Nanyu didn't say anything for the time being. Suddenly talking about this person and thinking about this person, Jian Nanyu suddenly realized something. On the other hand, Gu Fei had asked Jian Nan several times whether he dared to show up or not. In the end, Jian Nan did not reject the message nor did he reply. This made Gu Fei very bored. It was finally winter break, and he had more time to play the game. He was just about to show off his skills and teach these guys a lesson, but they ran away faster than a rabbit. Looking for someone again. Nothing is more tiresome than this. Bounty quests were the main theme of Gu Fei's gaming career, and looking for someone was the main theme of bounty quests. From this, it could be seen how annoying Gu Fei was to looking for someone. He was actually very envious of the treatment in Boundless World. He didn't have to look for someone, but someone would come to him. After walking 2 streets, he didn't see the person he wanted to see, and there were no robbers coming to rob him. Now that he had plenty of time, Gu Fei felt more and more lonely. Bounty quests could be played for 2 hours normally, but it was a bit unbearable for Gu Fei to be tormented for an entire night. Moreover, normal players could be killed with a single slash, so Gu Fei didn't have much fun. Gu Fei, who had nothing to do, could only choose to go offline. He wasn't familiar with White Stone City, so he grabbed a passerby to ask for the nearest revival point and walked over. Soon after, Gu Fei understood what it meant to have no way out of the mountains and rivers, to have to wear out iron shoes to find him, to have to search for him in one's dreams 1,000 times. At the revival point, Gu Fei had just entered the archer shooting range when he saw 3 figures from the corner of his eye. He turned around and saw Glue, Flaming Cloak, and a cleric in South Kenyu's group of 7, who he didn't know the name of, were sitting cross-legged at the foot of the wall, fighting fiercely with self-made cards in their hands. Glue and the cleric had already seen Gu Fei and were dumbfounded. Flaming Cloak, on the other hand, had no idea what was going on. He raised 4 cards high above his head and threw them to the ground, shouting, 4 twos! Ha! Glue and Lin Senson's expressions stiffened. They weren't paying attention to Flaming Cloak's bombs at all. Seeing that the kid was still proud of the bombs, they pouted behind him. Flaming Cloak's expression turned serious. He arched his back and asked the 2 murderously, "You're here?" Before the 2 could answer, Flaming Cloak had already turned around, but he was even more stunned than the other 2. "Hey, I'm playing." Gu Fei was very happy to see the 3 and immediately came over. "What are you doing?" Flaming Cloak stumbled 4 steps back, and the cards scattered all over the ground. "Where's South Kenyu?" Gu Fei went straight to the point. "I don't know." The 3 of them answered. Glue also gave Flaming Cloak a hand, reminding him that this was a revival point, and a revival point where he could go offline. "It's nice to see you 3. Are you going out?" Gu Fei asked. The 3 of them shook their heads mechanically. "I was just about to go offline. I didn't expect you 3 to be hiding here." Gu Fei said. The 3 of them had a bitter taste in their mouths. Why were they so unlucky? Glue hurriedly sent a message to the other 4, "We've been exposed." "What's wrong?" "Qianli is drunk." "Why is he there?" "He said he was going offline and was passing by." "Fuck this shameless guy. Didn't he say he wouldn't sleep tonight?" Kenyu was extremely depressed. This Qianli was too shameless. He changed what he said just a few minutes ago. Glue was speechless. He was already squatting in front of him. What was the point of thinking about this? "What are you playing?" Gu Fei looked at the cards on the ground. The cards were obviously self-made, and they were specially made for Landlord. There were no colors on the cards, and the numbers were written on them, from A to K. How do you draw the cards? Gu Fei was curious about how they drew the cards, and he found one. Fuck, it's so realistic. Gu Fei was impressed. There were 2 cards. The big one had a big king written on it, and the small one had a small king written on it. The 3 of them had the urge to strangle Gu Fei to death. However, the safe zone treated everyone equally and did not only protect them. "It's done." Gu Fei stopped smiling, picked up the cards on the ground, and handed them back to Hualini. He looked at the 3 of them and said, "Who are you guys plotting against this time?" "Playing cards." "None of your business." Lin Musensen saw that the first 2 did not have a good line, so he simply kept quiet. "You can't do anything with me here." Gu Fei was calm. It was winter vacation, and he did not have to go to work tomorrow, so he was very confident. "Humph, it's none of your business." Hualini was the one who was most afraid of Gu Fei, but he was the most talkative in front of Gu Fei, which showed his panic and uncertainty. "Come, let's continue." Hualini pulled on Glue and Lin Musensen, and calmly walked to the side to continue playing cards. The 2 players hesitated for a moment. Clearly, they were helpless against Huarini's childish display. However, there was nothing else they could do. Gu Fei couldn't even leave the room, so the only thing they could do was to go offline. Then, they glanced at Gu Fei and went to play cards with Hualini. The three of them were absent-minded. They picked their cards while peeking at Gu Fei. Gu Fei squatted on the side and looked at the three of them with a smile, but he did not say anything. When the cards were about to end, Hualini reached for his card, only to find that he only had 3 cards left. He was surprised. Did I get the wrong card? It should be my last card. Those who played cards often could tell that the number of cards wasn't right. There should be 1 more card in the flaming cloak. 1 is missing? Hualini looked around. His cards had fallen on the ground, and he wondered if one of them had been blown away by the wind. When he saw Gu Fei's cunning smile, Hualini immediately realized something. You hid 1 card from us, didn't you? Nonsense, Gu Fei said calmly. I did hide 4 cards. Give them back. Hualini was furious. Didn't I tell you? You can't do anything as long as I'm here. As he spoke, Gu Fei shook his hand, and the 4 cards appeared between his fingers. Then he loosened his fingers, turned his wrist, and chanted. Dual flame flash. A flame ignited between Gu Fei's fingers, and the 4 cards were enveloped by the flame. Although a mage's flame required the support of magic power and could only burn for a short period of time, a piece of paper was so flammable that it was enough for it to be surrounded by the flame. When the flame dissipated, it had already turned into 4 pieces of white ash, which could be blown away by the wind. Can't I draw again? Hualini fumbled for a pen and paper in his pocket, ready to start drawing again. That's enough. Glue stopped Hualini from being angry. After calming himself down, he looked at Gu Fei and said, What's the point of wasting time with us? It's easy for you to waste time for a day or 2, but do you want to waste time like this for the rest of your life? Gu Fei smiled. Of course not, but I happened to run into you. I pretended that I didn't see anything, and I couldn't sleep for the whole night. There are 7 resurrection points, but why did you have to choose the one that I went offline? Why didn't you say that you chose this one? Hualini roared. Is it God's will? Gu Fei asked. Hualini spat out blood. What do you want? Glue said. Your boss asked me the same question. It's so profound. I've been thinking about it. Actually, I can't do anything to you. But the problem is, I don't know if you're unlucky or if I'm unlucky, but I keep bumping into you. It's not my style to ignore you when I bump into you. You seem to be in a lot of pain. Look at what a mess this is. What do you think we should do? Gu Fei said. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.